Welcome to the cultivation universe where everything abnormal is normal. And today's main character, Bai Xiaochun, is living proof. A young man who fears death more than the sky falling. A genius whose main talent is causing trouble. And also the only person who can make the entire sect want to beat him, protect him, and avoid him as much as possible. A will eternal, a cultivation story full of laughter. But beneath it is the emotional journey of a seemingly useless person who carries within him a will that can shake heaven and earth. If you want a story that's addictive from the first listen, humorous, touching, and extremely captivating, then this is the perfect choice. Now let's embark on a journey where just one thought is enough to shake eternity. Sweat beaded on the forehead of the giant ghost king. He didn't possess Bai Xiaochun's cultivation level, nor did he have the means to alleviate the pressure like Bai Xiaochun did. But he was still a giant ghost king, once one of the 4 great heavenly kings of the savage wilderness. Although the suppression of his cultivation caused him to sweat profusely with a few breaths, he quickly regained his composure. He and Bai Xiaochun ascended the steps. The two walked straight ahead. The main palace before them became clearer and clearer. The figures of the cultivators standing on either side with their backs to them also slowly increased in number. Until the two reached the last step, standing before the palace, they saw a huge square on the steps. At the end of the square were 9 enormous pillars. Each pillar was carved with dragons and phoenixes. These dragons and phoenixes looked incredibly lifelike, as if they were real. In the center of these 9 pillars stood an enormous blue cauldron. Streams of blue smoke rose from within, merging into the clouds on either side of the square. Thousands of people stood motionless, respectfully gazing towards the far end, where the vast hall stood. Before the hall's entrance, 2 white-haired old men, hunched over, their hands tucked into their sleeves, bowed their heads towards the inner hall in reverence. Inside the hall, under everyone's watchful eyes, there was only one person. Not a man in imperial robes, but one in a casual blue robe, seated on a chair, holding an ancient book, his head bowed. He appeared to be middle-aged, handsome, and gentle. It seemed that if he were to smile, it would be like a spring breeze, immersing people in a feeling of warmth and making them willing to shed blood and sacrifice their lives. Silence reigned all around. It seemed that if he didn't speak, no one present would dare to utter a word. In this silence, even Gu Tianjun only bowed his head, then stood at the head of the group on the right, bowing without speaking. The entire hall was completely silent. Only Bai Xiaochun and the giant ghost king stood in the center. But no one glanced at them. Everyone was waiting for this middle-aged man in green to raise his head. He certainly knows how to show off. In this silence, under this pressure, Bai Xiaochun's heart pounded. But he felt he couldn't be intimidated. He secretly reassured himself. At the same time, he felt a little uneasy. Indeed, the demeanor displayed by this holy emperor was too dazzling. Fortunately, this holy emperor didn't keep everyone waiting too long. Seemingly noticing Bai Xiaochun's arrival, his gaze shifted from the ancient book in his hand and fell upon Bai Xiaochun standing in the square. A smile appeared on his face. As soon as the smile appeared, it was like 100 flowers blooming, a spring breeze spreading out. The entire imperial palace instantly brightened. Even the mist surrounding it seemed to dance and disperse in an instant. At the same time, the lotus flowers seemed to bloom even more profusely, their fragrance wafting out. The dragonfish in the celestial pond also swam more freely. "Brother Bai, I have heard of you for a long time." In that smile, the holy emperor's voice was incredibly gentle, revealing a sense of familiarity. At the same time, his eyes showed a sincerity that no one could doubt. Bai Xiaochun held his breath, concentrating his mind. In his mind, he recalled the scene of himself in the savage wilderness, seeing the Emperor Kui. He immediately took a few steps forward, clasped his hands, bowed deeply to the holy emperor, and loudly declared, "Bai Xiaochun, a cultivator from the Tongshan world, pays his respects to the holy emperor. Thank you, benevolent holy emperor, for allowing the people of our Tongshan world to be safe within your territory. At the same time, you can better adapt to the eternal world. I, Bai, cannot repay you, so I decided to make a trip to the evil emperor dynasty with the giant ghost Taoist, intending to capture the evil emperor and present him to you. Unfortunately, I am still unfamiliar with the eternal immortal realm and couldn't find an opportunity. In the end, I could only successfully capture a heavenly venerate. The gift may be small, but the sentiment is extraordinary. I hope you will not disdain it. Bai Xiaochun sighed, his face filled with regret. He seemed somewhat moved by the evil emperor's good fortune. As Bai Xiaochun spoke these words, the holy emperor's smile stiffened slightly. Clearly, even as a revered emperor, he was taken aback by Bai Xiaochun's words. He was already like this, not to mention the thousands of nobles standing on either side of the square. Each of them couldn't help but glance at Bai Xiaochun, their expressions strange, even contemptuous. Many even showed intense wariness. They had truly witnessed shamelessness before. As members of the Holy Emperor dynasty, maintaining a dignified demeanor was a natural instinct. But Bai Xiaochun, in front of the Holy Emperor, boasting without batting an eye, especially daring to exaggerate beyond measure this kind of skill, was truly unprecedented. He wants to capture the evil emperor. Because he's unfamiliar with the route, he can't find the evil emperor. To shameless. Boasting is one thing, but boasting without limits like this is wrong. The giant ghost king's eyes widened. He had been a little nervous, but hearing Bai Xiaochun's tone and seeing his regretful expression, he suddenly felt less anxious. A sense of relief subtly appeared on his face. He glanced around at everyone. The giant ghost king vaguely had the illusion that this wasn't the eternal continent, but rather the savage emperor city of the barbarian wilderness. Thinking about it, before long, the entire eternal immortal realm will know about this guy's shamelessness and his ability to cause disaster. Looking at the expressions of everyone around him, and noticing the somewhat stiff smile of the holy emperor, Bai Xiaochun felt a surge of smugness. He realized that the previous atmosphere was too passive. Only by taking a certain degree of initiative could he gain a greater advantage in this exchange. Just as he was contemplating how to begin, a jarring voice, familiar to Bai Xiaochun, suddenly rang out from among the more than 1,000 cultivators standing to his left. Bai Xiaochun, this is the Holy Emperor's palace. Don't speak nonsense. As the voice faded, a man stepped out from the crowd, bowing respectfully to the Holy Emperor. Your Majesty, based on Bai Xiaochun's earlier words, I have identified 300 major crimes. The most serious is treason. I beg you to severely punish Bai Xiaochun for treason. Liu Yang, Bai Xiaochun was startled. Looking closer, he recognized the speaker, his eyes widening in disbelief. There were so many people here. He hadn't looked carefully before. Now, seeing the man before him was none other than Liu Jianhu from the savage wilderness, the one who had listed his 100 major crimes. Bai Xiaochun was bewildered. Liu Jianhu didn't even glance at Bai Xiaochun. At this moment, he was inwardly elated and smug. His luck was good. The place he was teleported to was within this holy emperor city. He was arguably the first to willingly contribute, openly telling the holy emperor everything he knew, in exchange for his current official position. Even though the position wasn't very high, he was still satisfied. Now, seeing Bai Xiaochun, who had previously forced him to defend the Great Wall, causing him constant fear and anxiety day and night, he naturally had to strike back fiercely, completing the unfinished great task of that year. A gentleman's revenge is never too late, even after 1,000 years. Bai Xiaochun, I couldn't do anything to you in the savage wilderness, but here, I want you to see. I will expose 1,000 of your grave crimes. Bai Xiaochun never dreamed he would encounter Liu Jianhu, this strange figure, here. He knew that this person had left a very deep impression on him. Recalling those 100 grave crimes, it was as if the image of the other man eloquently explaining himself before the Grand Heavenly Master still flashed through his mind. Then, because he had reversed the situation, Liu Jianhu reportedly fled to the Great Wall, not daring to return. And then, the Great Wall crumbled. Bai Xiaochun had forgotten about it. Until today, the other man had appeared here, and suddenly, he was listed as the 300 grave crime. Back then, I was sent out of Kuhuang City by the Grand Heavenly Master, and I didn't bother to cause trouble for this guy. What kind of fate does this fellow have? The Great Wall crumbled, and he didn't die. That's one thing, but it's another. The world collapsed, yet he still managed to survive. Far better than Zhang Daopan, and even held an official position within this holy emperor's court. Especially, he's become thinner, his complexion is even more radiant, his face is cheerful, and his demeanor is confident. At first glance, he still seems very handsome. Bai Xiaochun glared at the spirited Liu Jianhu before him, feeling very envious. He felt that this guy was not only lucky, but must also be living very well in the Holy Emperor City. Seeing Bai Xiaochun's expression and noticing the deep admiration in the eyes of the important figures around him, Liu Qianhu became even more smug. He was preparing to list 300 major crimes to draw more attention from the Holy Emperor when Bai Xiaochun waved his sleeve. Instantly, Gongsun water and several demigods were released from his storage bag. Holy Emperor, this is a gift from me. Bai Xiaochun knew that in terms of rhetoric, he couldn't outsmart Liu Qianhu, who could easily list hundreds of major crimes. He resolutely ignored them and directly released Gongsun water. As soon as Gongsun water was released, the gazes of thousands of people around her instantly became serious. Especially the leading figures, the heavenly venerables like Gu Changjun, their eyes now shone with intense light. Even the Holy Emperor was drawn to Gongsun water's presence. He pretended not to hear what Liu Qianhu had said. Seeing this, Liu Qianhu touched his nose, feeling no shame. He took a few steps back, returning to the crowd. He looked at Bai Xiaochun, his heart filled with arrogance. I couldn't do anything to you this time. But it doesn't matter. I'll grant your wish. Sooner or later, I will expose your 1,000 grave crimes. Gongsun water took a deep breath, her expression calm as she stood there. After bowing to the Holy Emperor, she remained silent, closing her eyes. As a heavenly venerate of the evil Emperor dynasty, she bowed her head out of respect for the powerful. As for other matters, she wouldn't speak. She also trusted that the Holy Emperor dynasty wouldn't force her. As for these demigods, they were now in despair, standing there, their bodies trembling. The pressure emanating from all sides, from the gazes of the heavenly venerate and the Holy Emperor, nearly caused their minds to collapse. After a long while, the Holy Emperor laughed. His laughter grew louder and louder. He rose from his large chair. He was truly delighted. This grand gift was the most significant gift the Holy Emperor dynasty had received since its founding. Even if he didn't kill Gongsun water, a heavenly venerate would certainly allow the Holy Emperor dynasty to gain even larger territories, especially those provinces currently in conflict. This opportunity could be used to reclaim them. At the same time, this also doesn't violate the agreement between him and the evil emperor before. This was brought here by someone else, not something the Holy Emperor himself actively captured. From then on, even if the evil emperor wanted revenge, he wouldn't be able to find it on the Holy Emperor dynasty. All right. With a laugh, the Holy Emperor's eyes flashed, and he bowed his head towards Bai Xiaochun, who was standing in the square outside the main hall. Giant Ghost, step forward and listen to the decree. The giant ghost king was overjoyed, immediately taking a few steps forward and bowing to the Holy Emperor in the main hall. I appoint the giant ghost as the great venerable of Shenluo continent in the second immortal realm of my Holy Emperor dynasty, to guard Shenluo continent and enjoy the offerings of all beings in the continent. The immortal realm of eternity, a continent that can be compared to the entire Tongshan world. Guarding a continent and being bestowed the title of Great Venerable. This means the Giant Ghost King's word is law within Shenluo continent, deciding life and death. The entire divine continent is equivalent to the territory of the Giant Demon King. This kind of reward, befitting the status of the Giant Demon King, made him feel even more satisfied. What he wanted was a place to reside, a base where he could reminisce about the Tongshan world. At this moment, in his excitement, the Giant Demon King bowed his head again. Thank you, Holy Emperor. When he stood up, the Giant Demon King's entire demeanor was different from before. He knew that from this moment on, he had finally established himself firmly on the Eternal Continent, no longer a wandering rogue cultivator, no longer needing to constantly worrying about the dangers of life and death. What he wanted to do was, as he had previously discussed with Bai Xiaochun, to use the help of the Holy Emperor dynasty to completely establish himself in the immortal realm of the Eternal Continent. Bai Xiaochun was also very excited. Seeing the Giant Demon King being rewarded with a continent, he thought his own contribution was even greater, and at this moment, his heart was filled with anticipation as he looked towards the Holy Emperor. Bai Xiaochun, listen. The Holy Emperor's gaze fell upon Bai Xiaochun, a light flashing in his eyes, and he suddenly spoke. Bai Xiaochun's breath stopped, and his expression became solemn and respectful. He understood that when to bow, he should bow. When to show, he should show. In such matters, not losing face and securing benefits were the key. Bai Xiaochun's merits are immense. His status in the Tongshan world is even higher, his reputation unmatched. I hereby bestow upon Bai Xiaochun the title of Tongshan Duke. Within our Holy Emperor dynasty, only heavenly venerables can be called kings. Below the king are dukes. Tongshan Duke is the highest of all dukes, second only to kings. Rewards: a blessed land within the Holy Emperor city, a dragon fish from the celestial pond, a duke's robe, and a 7-colored belt. The Holy Emperor spoke casually, his voice echoing, causing thousands of nobles on both sides to show solemn expressions. This reward was undeniably immense. Whether it was the Tongshan technique, a blessed land, or a dragon fish, it was enough to shock outsiders. The imperial robe was also a magical artifact. The 7-colored belt would allow Bai Xiaochun to enter and exit the imperial palace from now on without being suppressed by the spirit. All of this, no matter how you looked at it, was incredibly generous. The only problem was it was all empty fame. Bai Xiaochun's true identity was extraordinary. Like the giant ghost king, after the Holy Emperor's comparison, he might be able to control a certain extent. But Bai Xiaochun was not. The Holy Emperor would absolutely not give anyone from the Tongshan world even the slightest chance of independence. What he wanted was integration. He wanted the people of the Tongshan world to completely integrate into the Holy Emperor dynasty, thereby strengthening himself. Therefore, he would certainly not give this ancestor Bai Xiaochun any real power. All he wanted was for Bai Xiaochun to obediently stay within the Holy Emperor city, serving as a symbol. Once the Holy Emperor dynasty had completely integrated the people of the Tongshan world, Bai Xiaochun's role would be meaningless. At that point, life and death would be in his hands. In fact, even if Bai Xiaochun hadn't thrown away this title, he would have given him a similar reward simply for coming. Now that Bai Xiaochun had captured the Ghost Mother, he appeared pleased on the surface, although he was genuinely happy. But in reality, all of this was just a facade. In his heart, he also sighed. He sighed. Such merit, even as the Holy Emperor, made him consider the feelings of the powerful figures within the imperial court and the evil emperor dynasty. Bai Xiaochun had truly offered an excessively large gift, so large that he couldn't help but offer some tangible rewards. That's why he bestowed the title of Grand Venerable upon the giant ghost king and granted him a province as a reward. Otherwise, he would absolutely not have given the people of the Tongshan world any chance. Just wait a little longer. Find a reason to take away this status from the giant ghost king. The Holy Emperor chuckled coldly to himself, but outwardly, he looked at Bai Xiaochun with a gentle expression. Tongshan Gong, you've just arrived in Holy Emperor City. You can get acquainted for a while. Regarding matters concerning the Tongshan world and its cultivators, you don't need to worry too much. I will take care of everything for you. You must be tired from the journey. Tongshan Gong, you can go and rest. Later, you can rest inside the Holy Emperor City and cultivate peacefully. I hope you can soon break through your cultivation level, ascend to the heavenly venerate rank, and give our Holy Emperor dynasty another king. Hearing the Holy Emperor's words, and seeing the solemn expressions of everyone around him concealing a chilling feeling, how could Bai Xiaochun not see that this so-called reward was all an illusion? Although he had discussed this with the giant ghost king on the way here and had anticipated this outcome, he still harbored a glimmer of hope. It was clear that the Holy Emperor dynasty's goal was ultimately the same as the evil Emperor dynasties, only their methods differed. I'm afraid that without this title, even the giant ghost king wouldn't have a place in a province. Bai Xiaochun understood all of this very well. He knew that these two emperors were birds of a feather, a ruthless villain, a cunning schemer. Bai Xiaochun smiled. Although he felt a little regretful, he felt no loss. No matter what, the Holy Emperor's words were very true. I really need to cultivate and break through as soon as possible. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath and bowed to the Holy Emperor. He was about to leave with the giant ghost king when, at that moment, the Marquis Liu Tian, whose expression changed drastically. He rushed out and shouted, "Your Majesty, you absolutely cannot allow Bai Xiaochun to remain in Holy Emperor City. Otherwise, Holy Emperor City will be in danger." Marquis Liu Tian, whose voice was filled with anxiety. His mood seemed to have become extremely tense in that instant, making his tone somewhat sharp, echoing across the square and causing thousands of nobles around him to frown. Bai Xiaochun's footsteps suddenly halted. Marquis Liu Tian, whose words made him widen his eyes in surprise. The great demon king, standing beside him, was secretly delighted. His gaze towards Liu Jianhu was filled with anticipation. This guy finally spoke the truth. The giant demon king was hoping that Liu Tianhu's words could change the holy emperor's mind. Even though the chances were small, if it really worked, releasing Bai Xiaochun would be a huge gain for both him and Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun also felt for the first time that Liu Tianhu's words weren't harsh. He also looked forward to seeing what would happen. He even wanted to encourage Liu Jianhu to work harder. Although the holy emperor didn't like it, he still looked gently at Liu Jianhu. Liu Aiking, why do you say that? Being called upon by the holy emperor, Liu Jianhu was excited and bowed deeply. Then his voice became extremely fervent as he spoke loudly. Your Majesty, you don't know. When Bai Xiaochun was in the Tongshan world, I always paid attention to him. This person can say that wherever they go, they will bring disaster and harm to all living beings. After causing trouble at the Lingxi sect, he then caused trouble at the Bloodstream sect. After that, he had a hard time at the Reverse River sect, and then he went to the Savage Wilderness, plundering people's wealth and taking their wives and concubines. After committing 100 major crimes in the Savage Wilderness, this guy almost caused the Nine Heavens Cloud Thunder sect in the northern region to collapse. The lamentations were earth-shattering. It was simply outrageous. Liu Jianhu said with a sorrowful expression. Before he could finish, the thousands of powerful figures surrounding him all smiled. Their laughter carried a hint of contempt. Clearly, while they didn't disbelieve Liu Tianhu's words, they found them overly exaggerated. Moreover, in their opinion, Bai Xiaochun's cultivation was only at the quasi-heavenly venerate level. In a small place like the Tongshan world, even a slight disturbance would cause earth-shattering explosions that would terrify the weak. But where is this place? This is the capital of the Holy Emperor Dynasty, Holy Emperor City. Here, there are heavenly venerables and holy emperors guarding it. Even if Bai Xiaochun has even greater abilities, he will have to behave himself in this place and cannot cause any major trouble. The holy emperor smiled silently. His thoughts were similar to everyone else's. He thought that if you throw a monkey into a small forest without any wild animals, that monkey can truly dominate. But if you throw it into a pack of lions and tigers, the monkey will ultimately just be a monkey. At this moment, he waved his hand, interrupting Liu Tianhu's words. The holy emperor stood up, preparing to end this court session. The giant ghost king was filled with disappointment. Bai Xiaochun also felt a little regretful, but his eyes shifted. In fact, he was also worried about his ability to cause trouble. Normally, unintentionally, he would create earth-shattering events. If he were to be held captive inside the holy imperial city at this moment, he thought it would be best to prepare some kind of security measure. Therefore, he hurriedly took a few steps forward, and before the holy emperor could leave, he shouted, "Your Majesty, stop!" The holy emperor suddenly stopped, turning his head to look at Bai Xiaochun. The other nobles around him all looked over. "Your Majesty, what Liu Yang said is indeed true. I am also afraid, worried that I might unintentionally violate the laws of the Holy Emperor Dynasty. I wonder, what kind of law violation would a Tongshan duke like me commit to be punished?" Bai Xiaochun cautiously asked. The Holy Emperor's eyes flashed. He looked at Bai Xiaochun for a moment, then at Liu Jianhu. He narrowed his eyes. He vaguely felt that these two were problematic. Their tacit understanding clearly indicated they were looking for a reason to get Bai Xiaochun to leave Holy Emperor City. As a duke and marquis, and having rendered great service, except for treason, everything else can be overlooked. The Holy Emperor said calmly, secretly sneering in his heart, thinking to himself, such a good scheme, a profitable speculation. Just by standing here, I can continuously attract people from the Tongshan world. How could I let him get away? Having received the Holy Emperor's convincing answer, Bai Xiaochun was secretly delighted. But outwardly, he frowned, furrowed his brows, and sighed as he left the imperial palace with the giant ghost king. Seeing everyone around him leaving and the Holy Emperor also departing, Liu Jianhu pounded his chest and stomped his feet. He felt that this time, the Holy Emperor had brought a Wolf into the house. He vaguely envisioned a future scene in the Holy Emperor City, a scene of utter devastation, and finally, a grand farewell with drums and gongs for the plague-ridden Bai Xiaochun. "Don't blame me for not warning you," Liu Jianhu sighed, as if facing the end of the world. The court session ended. The rewards bestowed by the Holy Emperor were ready before Bai Xiaochun even left the palace. An old man standing in front of the main hall of the palace, with his hands tucked into his sleeves, presented them. A jade slip, used to open a blessed land. A sash of colored silk to wear. From now on, when entering and leaving the palace, the supreme treasure spirit residing within would no longer exert any oppressive force. Besides these two items, there was also a set of ceremonial robes made of a special material, radiating the aura of a magical artifact. Finally, a dragonfish. This dragonfish was over 10 feet long and still alive. Although its body was bound, it was still struggling. It had sharp teeth in its mouth and ferocious eyes. Bai Xiaochun looked at these items and sighed. This holy emperor is too stingy. Giving me robes, a cave dwelling, and a sash of colored silk is one thing, but why give me a fish? Bai Xiaochun shook his head, holding the jade slip, and went to his blessed land. This blessed land was on a lotus leaf. There were quite a few buildings on this lotus leaf. This lotus leaf was in the central area. Even so, there was no commotion. Calling it a blessed land was actually just a mansion. However, the heaven and earth spiritual energy inside was dense, and the area was quite large. The artificial mountains and pavilions inside were all very impressive. Looking at the mansion, Bai Xiaochun was still quite satisfied. Although he felt a little empty, he was unfamiliar with everything here, so he wouldn't have too many demands. At this moment, he sat down cross-legged, feeling the heaven and earth spiritual energy of the place. The giant ghost king also observed for a while, then went outside. He was different from Bai Xiaochun. Just like back in the small county town, Bai Xiaochun never befriended anyone from beginning to end. Although that was because Bai Xiaochun was in low spirits at the time, the giant ghost king, not long after arriving, knew almost everyone. This point alone shows the giant ghost king's skill in this area. Even Subeokai had to admit defeat. At this moment, the giant ghost king also made this decision. He prepared to do his best to gather some information before going to Shenluo continent. Soon, the moonlight shone down. Bai Xiaochun sat in the courtyard, opening his eyes from his meditation. He looked up at the sky, at the unfamiliar buildings all around him. He knew that, in this eternal immortal realm, he had only truly taken his first step. Overwhelmed with emotion, familiar faces involuntarily flashed through Bai Xiaochun's mind. Uncle Li Taidan, Ancestor Ling Xi, Song Junwan, Han Chennu, Shen Xuanzi, Su Baozai. As Bai Xiaochun murmured, these faces and names appeared in his mind. After a long while, he softly whispered, and Du Lingfei. Bai Xiaochun wasn't sure if Du Lingfei was still alive, but the words that Tongchen Taoist had uttered before his death echoed in his mind. However, with the collapse of the world and the vastness of the immortal realm, he couldn't find her in the endless sea of people. Next, I must strive to cultivate and break through to become a heavenly venerate as soon as possible. Cultivation requires elixirs and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It seems I need to learn a little about the cultivation resources within the eternal immortal realm. After a long while, Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, burying these thoughts deep within his heart. His eyes revealed anticipation and determination. Not long after, as the sky grew darker, the giant ghost king returned. His eyes were filled with excitement. The first thing he said upon seeing Bai Xiaochun was this fish, this dragonfish. Bai Xiaochun was utterly astonished. He took out the dying dragonfish and tossed it aside. The giant ghost king, however, treated it like a treasure, circling it around and examining it several times. Xiaochun, this fish is extraordinary. The Holy Emperor truly shed blood this time. It's a heavenly dragonfish. This heavenly dragonfish grows in the heavenly pond, drinks its water, absorbs the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and consumes countless rare treasures. It's the Holy Emperor's personal possession. Each heavenly dragonfish can increase the cultivation level of cultivators below the heavenly venerate level after consumption. It's comparable to an immortal elixir. An immortal elixir. Bai Xiaochun's eyes instantly lit up. Previously, he was worried about the spiritual energy needed for cultivation. Now, seeing that fish, he and the giant ghost king immediately grilled it. Following the fragrant aroma, and seeing the heavenly dragonfish grilled to a golden color, Bai Xiaochun and the giant ghost king immediately swallowed their saliva, taking bite after bite, and quickly finished the fish. The taste isn't bad. It has a similar feel to the spirit-tailed chicken. Bai Xiaochun licked his lips. The taste of this heavenly dragonfish was truly perfect for Bai Xiaochun. He couldn't help but recall the spirit-tailed chicken from back then. He felt a little regretful. He wondered if there was anything similar to the spirit-tailed chicken on the Eternal Continent. The giant ghost king beside him pursed his lips, picked up a fish bone, examined it briefly, then tossed it into his mouth, crunching it a few times. He even ate the bone. Just as he was about to open his mouth, his body suddenly trembled. A surge of heat erupted directly within him, causing a white mist to rise in the surrounding area. It really is a celestial fish. The giant ghost king exclaimed in surprise, immediately sitting down cross-legged and beginning to breathe. Seeing that the giant ghost king's effects were immediate, Bai Xiaochun waited for a while. He was somewhat dumbfounded. He found that he didn't even feel a trace of heat in his body. Something's wrong. Why did it work for the giant ghost king, but not for me? Bai Xiaochun suspiciously looked at the remaining fish bones on the ground. He casually stepped forward, picked up a few bones, and put them in his mouth, chewing and swallowing them. Only after Bai Xiaochun had eaten every bone did he finally feel a surge of heat within his body. Overjoyed, Bai Xiaochun immediately closed his eyes, feeling this heat continuously erupt within him, eventually transforming into a massive wave that surged and moved violently inside his body, ultimately propelling his longevity scroll cultivation technique forward, continuously progressing. This made Bai Xiaochun incredibly excited. He suppressed his excitement, completely immersing himself in the feeling of his cultivation level increasing. Time passed, and in this blessed land, Bai Xiaochun and the giant ghost king sat in meditation, locked in a standoff for about 3 hours. After 3 hours, the giant ghost king was the first to awaken. He looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. A glint of light flickered in his eyes. His heart was filled with even greater joy. He clearly realized that in just these 3 hours, his cultivation level had moved considerably closer to the late demigod stage. It's a pity there's only one. If I could eat it every day, I could definitely reach the great perfection of the demigod realm. While the giant ghost king was lamenting, Bai Xiaochun slowly opened his eyes. The moment his eyes opened and closed, a dazzling light shone in them. This time, his cultivation progress, while not as great as the giant ghost king's, was still incredibly strong because Bai Xiaochun's foundation was so solid. Even a slight increase was enough to excite him. He understood that to break through to become a heavenly venerate, he absolutely had to reach the great perfection of the longevity scroll. But his longevity scroll was still some distance from reaching great perfection. Most importantly, his longevity scroll was different from the immortal scroll. It wasn't something he cultivated himself, but something infused into his mind. Although Bai Xiaochun possessed divine abilities and even created his own longevity lamp, he still had some doubts about how to actually cultivate it. It's important to know that from the moment the Tomb Guardian poured something into his head until he arrived in the eternal immortal realm, Bai Xiaochun's cultivation, while increasing, remained stagnant overall. Although this was partly due to his temperament, at his current level, progressing further in cultivation was already difficult. Furthermore, this longevity scroll wasn't something he had cultivated himself. All of these factors seemed to form shackles, creating a bottleneck. Even with abundant heavenly and earthly power, and within the Holy Emperor City, nourished by the abundant spiritual energy, Bai Xiaochun estimated that, given this current bottleneck, he would need at least 10 years of cultivation to achieve even half the enhancement provided by the heavenly dragonfish. Thus, he himself didn't know how long it would take for his cultivation to break through to the demigod realm and enter the great perfection heavenly venerate realm. Originally, according to Bai Xiaochun's plan, he intended to learn a little about the miraculous elixirs and medicinal herbs in the eternal immortal realm, thinking of refining some himself to increase his cultivation speed. But now, looking at the few remaining fish heads and bones on the ground, it seemed as if a new door had opened before him. One fish is equivalent to 15 years of cultivation. Bai Xiaochun's heart grew even more eager. His eyes, like those of a hungry rat spotting food, gleamed with a green light. If I had enough fish, breaking through this bottleneck would be as easy as pie. I'll use this to accelerate my cultivation breakthrough. Entering the heavenly venerate realm will only be a matter of time. Thinking of this, Bai Xiaochun became even more excited. Leaving aside the fact that after becoming a heavenly venerate, his lifespan and vitality would explode, or if he had a Tao seed nearby, he could be revived by the primordial being, similar to the miraculous immortality. Just in this unfamiliar world, the desire to survive and reach the peak was enough to fill Bai Xiaochun's mind with thoughts of the heavenly dragonfish. I want to eat fish. Bai Xiaochun's gaze swept across the area, falling on the fish bones still scattered on the ground. He instantly grabbed them. But the giant ghost king now realized the miraculous nature of the heavenly dragonfish. He understood that even the bones were valuable. Seeing Bai Xiaochun grab them, he roared and finally lunged forward to snatch the fish bones. Giant Ghost King, this was given to me by the Holy Emperor. Don't you dare snatch it from me. Bai Xiaochun glared. Get lost. I'm your father-in-law. Consider this your filial piety. That's leftovers from my meal. I've licked every single bone. Bai Xiaochun retorted angrily, unleashing his ultimate attack. I licked him before you finished eating. It's nothing. We're family. No problem. The giant ghost king, and willing to be outdone, spat directly at the fish bones on the ground. It's unclear if the giant ghost king had cultivated a similar divine ability, but this spit fell like rain, directly covering the ground. Bai Xiaochun was somewhat dumbfounded, completely bewildered. Seeing the giant ghost king behaving so shamelessly, even with his sharp words, Bai Xiaochun still couldn't compare to this old fox, the giant ghost king, when it came to sheer thick skin. Especially since Bai Xiaochun was also extremely surprised. How could the giant ghost king spit out so much saliva? At this moment, Bai Xiaochun smiled wryly, hesitating for a while. The giant ghost king waved his sleeve, scooping up the fish bones into his hand, and looked at Bai Xiaochun smugly. Then he spat several more times on the fish bones before finally putting them into his storage bag. Fighting me, kid. You're still too naive. The giant ghost king laughed heartily, feeling satisfied. Bai Xiaochun remained silent, speechless. He sighed, about to speak. Suddenly, his expression shifted as he looked towards the outside of the blessed land. The giant ghost king seemed to have noticed as well. Almost simultaneously, he looked over. Before long, a clear voice rang out from outside the main gate of the blessed land. Lord Tongshen, Chen Su pays his respects. This was the first person to come to pay his respects since Bai Xiaochun arrived in the Holy Emperor City. Upon discovering that the visitor possessed the cultivation of a heavenly venerate, Bai Xiaochun became even more curious. He didn't want to delay, so he quickly took a few steps to the gate and raised his right hand. The main gate of the blessed land opened, revealing a white-haired old man standing outside. The old man wore a long blue robe, appearing like a wise and virtuous immortal. He smiled before even smiling and bowed to Bai Xiaochun. I was curious earlier. This morning I finally heard the sound of the magpies, knowing that a distinguished guest would arrive. I didn't expect it to be Dallas Chen. Please come in. Bai Xiaochun's face showed a slight smile, and his words were pleasant. At this moment, the disheveled appearance he had displayed earlier, having fought with the giant ghost king for the fishbone, was gone. Chen Su chuckled. Bai Xiaochun's words made him feel at ease. He nodded and entered the blessed land. The giant ghost king was also somewhat astonished. He knew that the two were not native cultivators of the Holy Emperor dynasty, but outsiders. Although they both held official positions, according to the information he had gathered, the powerful figures of the Holy Emperor City held them in contempt and animosity. Yet, in just one night, someone had come to pay their respects. Especially since this person was Chen Su, whose status was equivalent to Gu Changjun's, one of the four kings of the Holy Emperor dynasty. This startled the giant ghost king even more, and he hastily bowed in greeting. Chen Su nodded to the giant ghost king, then ignored him. He stood in the courtyard, looking around. Then he and Bai Xiaochun exchanged a few meaningless words. After a while, he cleared his throat and suddenly asked, "By Taoist, where is the heavenly dragonfish bestowed by His Majesty?" Heavenly dragonfish? Bai Xiaochun had already been curious about Chen Su's visit. Upon hearing the other party mention the heavenly dragonfish, Bai Xiaochun was taken aback. That's right, it's this heavenly dragonfish. I wonder if fellow Taoist Bai would be willing to part with something he cherishes. I, Chen, would like to trade for it. A fiery enthusiasm flickered in Chen Su's eyes as he gazed at Bai Xiaochun. Even as a heavenly venerate, he didn't possess many heavenly dragonfish. After all, these were the personal possessions of the Holy Emperor. They were rarely given away as rewards. In the entire Holy Emperor dynasty, only a few hundred had been bestowed. Each one was extraordinarily precious. To call them national treasures wouldn't be an exaggeration. Even in the evil Emperor dynasty, their value was unimaginable. After all, the blood of these heavenly dragonfish was a supreme immortal material used for refining immortal pills. He didn't think Bai Xiaochun would refuse. After all, the other party had just arrived in the Holy Emperor dynasty and wouldn't be so foolish as to offend him, a heavenly venerate, for the sake of a single fish. That, fellow Taoist Chen, you're too late. That fish, I've already eaten it. Bai Xiaochun hesitated slightly, looking at Chen Su as he spoke. Hearing Bai Xiaochun's words, Chen Su was startled. After recovering from his shock, his eyes widened as if he couldn't believe it, and he asked again, "You said?" "Ate it? Yes, I ate it." Bai Xiaochun glared, nodding. "Fellow Taoist Bai, do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? If you can't bear to part with something you cherish, you can just say so directly. This heavenly dragonfish is like a national treasure, incredibly precious. How could anyone who receives it as a reward be willing to eat it? They all raise them only to extract their blood." Chen Su immediately became displeased. He saw that this was clearly just an excuse. His tone was icy cold. He flicked his sleeve, intending to leave again. Bai Xiaochun sighed, glancing at the giant ghost king. The giant ghost king reluctantly took out some fish bones from his storage bag. "Fellow Taoist Chen, these are fish bones." Chen Su heard this and couldn't help but glance at them briefly. Chen Su then left. After seeing the fish bones with saliva clinging to them and sensing the aura of the heavenly dragonfish emanating from them, Chen Su's entire body trembled. He felt a tightness in his chest. As a heavenly venerate of the Holy Emperor dynasty, he had encountered many nobles who had been rewarded with heavenly dragonfish. Each of them had nurtured the national treasure, the heavenly dragonfish, as if it were a priceless treasure. This was the first time he had seen someone directly eat the national treasure, the heavenly dragonfish. His brain was already a little overwhelmed. He stared blankly at the fish bones. After a moment, Chen Su shook his head and sighed. What a waste! With an indescribable feeling, Chen Su left the blessed land in disappointment. Bai Xiaochun and the giant ghost king exchanged glances, both somewhat surprised. Just one fish. What's the big deal? The people of the Holy Emperor dynasty were really strange. The giant ghost king felt a little uneasy. He realized that the information he had gathered last night wasn't entirely accurate. He coughed, glancing at the sky. "Xiaochun, this place isn't far from Shenluo continent. I must also leave quickly. This farewell. I don't know when we'll meet again," the giant ghost king said, a hint of emotion in his voice. The two had met in the evil Emperor dynasty and traveled all the way here. Looking back, it seemed smooth sailing, but in reality, there were many twists and turns along the way. Fortunately, things finally stabilized. Everyone had their own piece of the sky. Bai Xiaochun felt a little reluctant, sighing deeply. He personally saw the giant ghost king off, watching him reach the teleportation array and disappear into it. Bai Xiaochun stood there for a long time before taking a deep breath and turning to leave. The giant ghost king is gone. Now, I am the only one left in this holy emperor city. I must cultivate quickly and strive for a breakthrough. A look of determination appeared in Bai Xiaochun's eyes. On the way back to the blessed land, people came and went. Ordinary people were rare. Most were cultivators. Each one seemed to exude arrogance from their very bones. They seemed particularly proud of being able to reside in the capital of the Holy Emperor dynasty. Bai Xiaochun could understand this kind of arrogance, but he didn't pay much attention to it. As he walked along the road, he looked at the surrounding architecture, feeling the presence of the heavenly pond of the entire Holy Emperor city and the giant lotus leaf beneath his feet. He had his own thoughts about the peculiar things in the Holy Emperor city. The foundation of this Holy Emperor city is the heavenly pond of this great mountain. In this state of awe, Bai Xiaochun walked past the edge of a lotus leaf, seeing the water of the heavenly pond outside. He also saw a heavenly dragon fish parting the water inside the pond. Its golden scales, shimmering in the sunlight, revealed an indescribable beauty. Then it once again plunged into the pond, leisurely swimming away. There were quite a few people around. After seeing such a scene, although it was a habit, they were still captivated by the heavenly dragon fish. There were also several monks who seemed to have arrived in the capital not long ago, and their expressions all showed admiration. This is a treasure-like existence of our holy emperor dynasty, the heavenly dragonfish. This heavenly dragonfish is the most beautiful spiritual creature I've ever seen in my life. If the holy emperor could bestow one upon me, raising it at home would surely bring glory to my ancestors. While everyone was praising it, Bai Xiaochun also stood there admiring it. However, unlike the others, when Bai Xiaochun saw this heavenly dragonfish, what he thought of was the delicious taste of grilled fish and the transformation in his cultivation after eating it. He couldn't help but lick his lips, looking at the lake water. Based on Bai Xiaochun's cultivation, he could sense that there were quite a few heavenly dragonfish in the lake. Thinking of the various wonders of the heavenly dragonfish, Bai Xiaochun became even more tempted. He was wondering if he could find a way to catch some. Among the crowd, a newcomer to Holy Emperor City couldn't help but ask a cultivator next to him a question. If this heavenly dragonfish is a national treasure so precious and kept in a celestial pond, what if it were to be lost? Bai Xiaochun's eyes lit up at that. Lost. Laughter erupted from the crowd. Hearing the laughter, the monk who had previously asked the question blushed slightly with embarrassment. An old man beside him, obviously a longtime resident of the Holy Emperor City, had already reached the nascent soul stage of cultivation. He himself possessed some prestige. Now, he spoke with a smug expression, explaining, "All the heavenly dragonfish in this pond are the personal property of His Majesty the Holy Emperor. Each fish has a mark. Who would dare to steal fish from within our Holy Emperor City? Stealing fish is absolutely impossible. If anyone were so audacious as to try and steal them, their fate would undoubtedly be tragic. Don't even talk about stealing. Even harming these heavenly dragonfish is absolutely forbidden." The old man spoke arrogantly, his words echoing in all directions. Several newly arrived monks in the Holy Emperor City nodded in agreement. Bai Xiaochun frowned, feeling a little awkward. Seeing that more and more people were attracting attention around them, the old man became even more smug. He continued to speak. However, His Majesty the Holy Emperor is merciful and generous, not coveting what belongs to him. Everything depends on fate. I once had one. To obtain a heavenly dragonfish, besides His Majesty the Holy Emperor himself bestowing it, the only way is to fish it. Fishing, a nearby cultivator asked in astonishment. That's right, fishing. No magic power can be used. You can only fish like an ordinary person. The old man cleared his throat. Dragonfish have spirits. If it has a connection with you and is willing to be eaten by you, it will naturally bite the hook, allowing you to catch it. The old man stroked his mustache, pointing to a spot near the edge of a lotus leaf in the distance. One could vaguely discern someone sitting there in meditation, holding a fishing rod, completely motionless. Look over there. That's the sea god Great Venerable. He's been fishing there for over 100 years and hasn't caught a single one. This shows he hasn't even encountered a dragonfish destined for him. The old man introduced it quite a bit. Most of the people around knew about it. Their expressions showed pride. The newly arrived cultivators hurriedly bid farewell and thanked him. Soon, everyone dispersed. The old man also raised his head, clasped his hands behind his back, and walked away into the distance. Only Bai Xiaochun remained standing at the edge of the lotus leaf, watching the heavenly dragonfish leisurely swimming in the lake. He glanced at the half-god in the distance who had been fishing for over 100 years. This holy emperor is indeed putting on a show of righteousness. Bai Xiaochun stroked his chin, pondering the words he had heard earlier. He understood clearly in his heart. He knew that the holy emperor's intention, while outwardly appearing generous and benevolent, was to offer a method for harvesting dragonfish. In reality, catching them wasn't impossible. However, the difficulty was immense. He feared that catching even one in several decades would be considered fortunate. After all, these heavenly dragonfish had consumed rare treasures and developed sentience. They weren't exactly spirits, but they were certainly not far from it. To make them willingly allow themselves to be eaten, as the holy emperor suggested, because of their connection with that person. Such a scheme might fool ordinary cultivators, but Bai Xiaochun thought about it. He realized that he wasn't the only one. Many powerful figures in the Holy Emperor dynasty had likely seen through this trick. Such stubborn individuals, like the half-god sea god, were rare. To catch them without using cultivation was simply too difficult. Bai Xiaochun felt a little dejected. He longed to eat fish and could see them, even reaching out with just a wave of his hand. But time and again, he couldn't. After hesitating for half a day, Bai Xiaochun felt he might have wrongly accused the Holy Emperor. He simply bought a fishing rod and found a spot to try fishing. After a few attempts, Bai Xiaochun sighed and gave up. These kinds of dragonfish are simply impossible to catch. Bai Xiaochun looked at the fish below the water's surface, circling his hook. Even when their eyes fell upon him from below the water, Bai Xiaochun didn't know if it was an illusion or not. But he felt that the eyes of one of these heavenly dragonfish seemed to carry a hint of mockery. "Fish dare to mock me!" Bai Xiaochun was instantly enraged, glaring at the water's surface. His eyes revealed ferocity. But very quickly, Bai Xiaochun's body trembled. He had lost the battle. In this battle of divine abilities and gazes, Bai Xiaochun had always been the winner. But today, after conjuring over 100 heavenly dragonfish underwater, under 100 mocking gazes, Bai Xiaochun's face was ashen. He retreated a few steps, filled with unwillingness and resentment. This is outrageous. Bai Xiaochun was unwilling, but also helpless. He could only throw down his fishing rod and return to his cave dwelling. A few days later, the envoy from the evil emperor dynasty arrived and discussed the return of Gongsun Water with the Holy Emperor. Finally, they agreed on 3 provinces as the location of the Holy Emperor dynasty. When Bai Xiaochun learned of this, he looked up at the white-boned serpent warship slowly sailing away in the sky. Gongsun Water was still standing on the warship. From afar, he bowed and bid farewell. He also hoped that everything would go smoothly for her within the evil emperor dynasty. Anyway, the evil emperor has returned, and the demon mother is no longer the original demon mother. Gongsun Water has been taken away. The Holy Emperor dynasty, from top to bottom, is overjoyed. Countless citizens and cultivators are ecstatic, feeling a sense of triumph. After all, this time, the evil emperor, in exchange for Gongsun Water, has given away 3 provinces. Although these 3 provinces once belonged to the Holy Emperor dynasty, over the years, in small-scale conflicts and disputes, these places have gradually been swallowed up by the evil emperor dynasty. But today, the evil emperor dynasty has no choice but to relinquish the territories it has occupied. To cultivators unaware of the situation, this is like achieving a great victory in a war between 2 dynasties. However, in the eyes of the Holy Emperor dynasty's powerful figures and the Holy Emperor, it's not like that at all. Although it's 3 provinces, due to 2 years of continuous conflict, these 3 provinces have become extremely barren. For the evil Emperor dynasty, this seemed very weak. The Holy Emperor dynasty also needed these 3 provinces, which were better than nothing, to boost morale. At the same time, he understood that he shouldn't push too hard. Otherwise, it would lead to the evil emperor sacrificing the ghost mother to abandon the deal. Moreover, since this abandonment was due to the Holy Emperor dynasty's greed, the evil emperor could also explain it to the other heavenly venerables under his command, without alienating them. Therefore, maintaining the right balance was crucial. Ultimately, such a result was acceptable to both sides, and it could be considered a resolution. However, all of this had nothing to do with Bai Xiaochun. From beginning to end, neither dynasty mentioned Bai Xiaochun at all. It seemed the evil emperor dynasty had forgotten, and so had the Holy Emperor dynasty. Under the mutual benefit of both sides, Bai Xiaochun's role in this matter, while impossible to conceal, was minimized to the greatest extent possible through his efforts. Bai Xiaochun didn't pay much attention to that. At this moment, he was sitting in the blessed land, frowning and grimacing. There were bloodshot veins in his eyes, and countless thoughts swirled in his mind. Every thought was related to the heavenly dragonfish. He didn't want to keep dwelling on it. In fact, over the past few days, Bai Xiaochun had thoroughly investigated in the Holy Emperor City. He discovered that the alchemy methods here were similar to those in the Tongshan world, but the structure was completely different, and the consumption was enormous. Especially when it came to those at the demigod level, they were not only scarce, but also exorbitantly expensive. Bai Xiaochun was new, and his money wasn't much, but it wasn't far off. Although he had medicinal herbs, he didn't have many alchemy methods. Creating them from thin air was incredibly expensive. Unless he could find a way to obtain spirit stones, he feared he would be the poorest of the poor. The most economical option is the heavenly dragon fish. Bai Xiaochun's eyes reddened as he looked toward the direction of the heavenly pond. At this moment, only one path lay before him: cultivation. There was no other way. Bai Xiaochun gritted his teeth fiercely. I don't believe these fish dare to look down on me. Let's see how I deal with you. Bai Xiaochun stood up abruptly, picked up his fishing rod, and went to the edge of the lotus leaves. This time, he changed his position. After a few more days, Bai Xiaochun sighed, having to give up fishing. He realized that the fish here had truly become sentient. No matter where he fished, all he saw were those heavenly dragonfish swimming around his hook, then looking at him with contemptuous and mocking eyes. For several days, enduring the mockery of thousands of heavenly dragonfish, Bai Xiaochun felt as if the world had darkened. News of his fishing had been witnessed and spread among the powerful figures of the Holy Emperor City. The Tongshan master is actually fishing. He's truly a wild brat from outside. At first, in the imperial court, hearing his words, I thought he was some powerful figure. Now, looking at him, he's nothing but a fool. He can't see through the Holy Emperor's strategy. If he can catch it, I'll follow him from now on. It seems that on the lotus leaf of our Holy Emperor City, from now on, there's another stubborn person like the great sea god. The laughter spreading among the powerful figures of the Holy Emperor City held no good intentions, only sarcasm. They had always looked down on the people of the Tongshan world. Their attitude towards Bai Xiaochun was not much different from Bu Tianjun's attitude towards Bai Xiaochun back then. In their minds, the people of the Tongshan world were merely dependent beings. It was only out of pity that the Holy Emperor dynasty took them in. The Holy Emperor, of course, also knew about Bai Xiaochun's fishing and shook his head with a smile. That's good. This Tongshan master can fish peacefully, which saves me some trouble later. Within the entire Holy Emperor City, only Liu Yang, upon hearing this, was startled and his expression changed drastically. He hastily reported, his words filled with sorrow and despair. If Bai Xiaochun continued fishing, he feared that all the heavenly dragonfish in the heavenly pond would face disaster. However, because he himself was also from the Tongshan world, no one paid attention to his words. Even the Holy Emperor, after reading it, dismissed it as mere sensationalism. Here, whether it was the heavenly dragonfish in the heavenly pond or the nobles throughout the court outside the heavenly pond, they all looked at Bai Xiaochun with mocking eyes. Bai Xiaochun's persistence was finally exhausted. Damn it, I'm not fishing anymore. Bai Xiaochun roared, glaring at the heavenly dragonfish in the pond, their tails wagging as they turned to look at him with disdain. A ferocious smile slowly appeared on his lips. He spread his divine consciousness. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention, he immediately took out a wisdom illusion pill from his storage bag and threw it into the heavenly pond. The wisdom illusion pill dissolved in the water, colorless and odorless, making it even harder for others to detect. In an instant, the wisdom illusion pill diffused and was consumed by the heavenly dragonfish. Looking at those heavenly dragonfish, Bai Xiaochun snorted and turned to leave. In his later life, he often went to the edge of the lotus leaves, and when no one was paying attention, he would loosen his trouser leg. A wisdom illusion pill would fall into the lake water from his trouser leg. To avoid attracting attention, Bai Xiaochun didn't throw many each day. At most, it was only 2 or 3 pills. Occasionally, there was only 1. He understood the importance of quality and persistence, continuously throwing wisdom illusion pills in different places for more than half a month. Gradually, at first, not many heavenly dragonfish reacted to the wisdom illusion pill. But gradually, quite a few heavenly dragonfish began to appear, seemingly swimming a little faster each day. Until finally, every time Bai Xiaochun's pill entered the lake water, quite a few heavenly dragonfish would immediately rush over, their mouths wide open, swallowing the lake water containing the wisdom illusion pill. Fortunately, the ordinary heavenly dragonfish, when someone fishes for them, tend to gather in one place and show contempt. Bai Xiaochun found a secluded spot, and being careful enough, he didn't attract anyone's attention. To be on the safe side, Bai Xiaochun simply pretended to be fishing to conceal the gathering of the heavenly dragonfish. Every time he saw those heavenly dragonfish open their mouths to swallow the lake water, Bai Xiaochun felt extremely smug. It's the heavenly dragonfish. Let me show you the power of my Bai family patriarch. This illusionary wisdom pill, once you eat it, you'll be addicted. I don't believe you won't be addicted, Bai Xiaoqun thought proudly. He had strong confidence in the illusionary wisdom pill. He believed that after continuously swallowing the lake water containing the illusionary wisdom pill for half a month, the dependence of these heavenly dragonfish on the pill would gradually increase. Calculating the time a bit, in the following days, Bai Xiaoqun didn't throw the wisdom illusion pill into the heavenly pond again. He wanted to let the addiction of these heavenly dragonfish develop. Until one day, he went to the edge of the lotus leaves again and saw quite a few people gathered around, exclaiming in surprise, "My God, these heavenly dragonfish are too smart. Look, it's actually learning to fish." Bai Xiaoqun hurried closer. He immediately saw one heavenly dragonfish underwater, holding a piece of seaweed in its mouth, just like other cultivators learning to fish. Bai Xiaoqun was overjoyed, knowing the time had come. So, with anticipation and enthusiasm, he took out the fishing hook he had prepared earlier, which had a little bit of the wisdom illusion pill's aura on it. He glanced around and found that the area where the great venerable sea god was fishing was very large and quiet, suitable for fishing. So he ran over and sat not far from this great sea god, about to cast his fishing line. The sea god great venerable frowned. He recognized Bai Xiaoqun. He knew the other party was the Tongchen master. But firstly, his perception of the Tongchen world was the same as everyone else's. Secondly, this was his fishing spot. For over 100 years, it had been like this. This Tongchen master's uninvited arrival displeased him, especially seeing Bai Xiaoqun's fishing rod, which was just the most ordinary kind, far inferior to the rods he himself crafted, with their immense elasticity and spiritual energy. Moreover, Bai Xiaoqun's anticipation at this moment naturally evoked a sense of excitement. This made the sea god great venerable even more displeased. As a half-god expert with long-standing qualifications, even from the same era as Gu Tianjun, and even having given guidance to Chen Su in his youth, he had profound experience and a deep background within the Holy Emperor dynasty. At this moment, he lifted his eyelids slightly and spoke indifferently. Introducing the Tongchen technique. The Tongchen technique, fishing cannot be done hastily. Luck is necessary. Loss is your life. Only by realizing this can one achieve inner peace and tranquility, naturally connecting the mind with the universe absorbing all things possessing spirits, and creating resonance with others. At the same time, it allows the heavenly dragonfish to sense it, this proactively returning and forming a lifelong bond. This is life. People say I am fishing. But in reality, I am contemplating life. With your temperament, you shouldn't waste your time here. The great venerable sea god slowly opened his mouth. An ethereal aura vaguely emanated from him. Bai Xiaoqun was startled. He felt that the old man's words were too mystical, and he couldn't understand them. But he still felt that the other party was fishing and seemed very powerful. So, after nodding, he casually threw his hook into the celestial pond and began fishing. Seeing that Bai Xiaoqun had ultimately chosen to fish, the sea god great venerable became even more displeased. At the same time, contempt flickered in his eyes. "You!" Before he could finish speaking, the water rippled slightly. In an instant, the sea god great venerable's eyes showed contempt. But just as Bai Xiaoqun cast his hook into the heavenly pond, almost as it touched the water's surface, suddenly, with a slight movement of the water, a heavenly dragonfish, over 10 feet long, appeared in the pond and directly bit the hook. The fish bit down very hard, swallowing it whole as if terrified of the hook slipping away. In Bai Xiaoqun's delight, he stood up and pulled with all his might. Immediately, this heavenly dragonfish, over 10 feet long, was pulled up by the line, along with a lot of pond water. Its golden fins shone brightly in the sunlight. The surrounding water droplets were also 5 vibrant colors, illuminating everything around, momentarily drawing the attention of many people in the distance. The heavenly dragonfish was successfully captured by Bai Xiaoqun. He was beaming with joy, excitedly putting the newly caught heavenly dragonfish into his storage bag. Everything happened so quickly that it felt like an illusion. Everyone stared in astonishment. At the same time, the sea god great venerable's mind was shaken. He could hardly believe his eyes. He raised his hand and rubbed them vigorously. Seeing the lake water rising to the ground and Bai Xiaoqun's excited expression, the old man gasped, his mouth agape. "Ah, what were you trying to say just now?" At this moment, Bai Xiaoqun's spirits soared, feeling like a true genius. These heavenly dragonfish dared to look down on him. Now, with just a small trick, he could immediately make the heavenly dragonfish in the lake obediently follow his lead. In his excitement, he thought of the old man who had been fishing nearby earlier, who seemed very powerful. He only uttered one word at the end. So he asked curiously, "I." The sea god Great Venerable's heart suddenly pounded. His mind was still reeling. After taking several deep breaths, he reluctantly recovered. After hearing Bai Xiaochun's words, he awkwardly touched his nose and forced a few laughs. That Tongshan Gong's luck isn't bad. After saying that, the old man also hurriedly threw his hook towards the water's surface. The spot where he threw his hook was exactly the same as where Bai Xiaochun's hook had landed, without a single difference. His heart grew even more anxious. He saw that quite a few heavenly dragonfish were swimming towards him from below the surface. Each one seemed a little impatient, but they paid no attention to his hook. Hearing the old man's words, Bai Xiaochun felt a little smug and cleared his throat. Then he cast his hook back into the lake. The spot where he cast was completely different from the old man's. This time, he cast it in front of the sea god Great Venerable. Almost instantly when Bai Xiaochun lowered the hook, the old man's eyes immediately turned towards it, and his breathing became somewhat rapid. But then his eyes suddenly widened. He saw the heavenly dragonfish in the lake, each one seemingly going mad, instantly rushing straight towards the hook. Even the water surged up in waves. These heavenly dragonfish, one after another, unleashed all their power. In the blink of an eye, another enormous celestial dragonfish bit the hook. Looking closely, there seemed to be excitement in its eyes. Such a sight struck the sea god Great Venerable as if he'd been struck by lightning. He'd nearly lost his grip on the fishing rod. He jumped up, his voice filled with astonishment. Impossible! He'd never felt such earth-shattering shock in his life. What he saw before him was beyond his imagination, shattering his composure. He'd sat there for over 100 years, and he'd seen people catch heavenly dragonfish before. But each time, those heavenly dragonfish seemed to be picking and choosing, like they were being given alms, lazily biting the hook. It was more like the heavenly dragonfish wanted to switch to another fisherman, but everything he saw today was utterly devastating. Here, they were supposedly fishing. This was clearly these fish were trying to curry favor with Bai Xiaochun, afraid of not biting the hook. The sea god Great Venerable was utterly bewildered, pointing at the lake, looking at Bai Xiaochun and opening his mouth to say something, but couldn't utter a single word. At this moment, those who had previously noticed the scene from afar were all terrified. Their minds were shaken. Amidst the whooshing sounds, more than 10 people quickly gathered around. Exclamations of surprise erupted in an instant. Someone actually caught a heavenly dragonfish. My God, not just one, but two in a row. What kind of luck is this? This is too unbelievable. It's not luck. This is a special connection with the heavenly dragonfish. The surrounding crowd was incredibly noisy. Under normal circumstances, the heavenly dragonfish in the lake would surely disperse due to the commotion. But today, not only were there not few heavenly dragonfish in the lake, but some sharp-eyed people even cried out in fear. Look over there, my God! So many heavenly dragonfish? How? How did they all come here? As his words spread, everyone around looked up. They were instantly shocked by the scene in the lake before them. The surface of the lake was churning with waves. Beneath the surface, each heavenly dragonfish seemed to be blindly and frantically surging from all directions. Looking around, there were probably thousands of heavenly dragonfish underwater, forming a magnificent spectacle that made everyone who saw it gasp in amazement. As for the great sea god, he was completely bewildered. Looking at the water, and then at Bai Xiaochun collecting the second heavenly dragonfish into his storage bag, he felt that everything that had happened today was incredibly bizarre and unbelievable. Bai Xiaochun was also somewhat frightened. He saw that the water in the pond was filled with these heavenly dragonfish, which seemed to be acting somewhat wildly. He realized the effects of the illusionary wisdom pill might be even greater than he had imagined. Especially since he had been throwing the pill every day before, suddenly stopping for a few days was like suddenly quitting an addiction. He feared that these heavenly dragonfish, each one starving, would go crazy if they suddenly caught a hook with a hint of the illusionary wisdom pill scent on it. This is a bit chaotic. Bai Xiaochun felt a little nervous. But then he thought that the illusionary wisdom pill was colorless and odorless, and would have long since been absorbed by these heavenly dragonfish. Even if he examined them, he wouldn't find any clues. After all, the pills from the Tongtian world and the eternal immortal realm, although similar in direction, had completely different internal structures. Most importantly, Bai Xiaochun was reluctant to part with the heavenly dragonfish that had once been connected to him, wishing he could just devour them directly. Therefore, Bai Xiaochun gritted his teeth and cast the hook towards the lake for the third time. At this moment, all eyes around him instantly followed the hook. The sea god Great Venerable even held his breath, staring intently at Bai Xiaochun's hook. Even more exaggerated than the previous two scenes, it instantly appeared before everyone's eyes, eliciting gasps of surprise. In an instant, they felt as if they were in a bustling city street. The sea god Great Venerable felt as if he had been struck by lightning repeatedly, recoiling several steps. When he looked at Bai Xiaochun, it was as if he had seen a ghost. He saw that the third time Bai Xiaochun cast the hook, before it even hit the water surface, more than 10 heavenly dragonfish spontaneously leapt out from beneath the water. Amidst the splashing water, more than 10 heavenly dragonfish were in midair, each one following the other, frantically leaping upwards, as if using all their strength to push their opponent away. As if truly assessing the situation, one after another trying to snatch the hook. Even underwater, many other heavenly dragonfish were still leaping out of the water at this time, a scene of such astonishing intensity that it was terrifying to even hear about. Fortunately, one heavenly dragonfish ultimately emerged victorious, extremely pleased and excited, biting the hook and allowing Bai Xiaochun to reel it in without uttering a word. After a considerable amount of time, Bai Xiaochun finally retrieved the hook. After the heavenly dragonfish rolled back and forth, the aura of the illusionary wisdom pill on the hook had long since dissipated. Otherwise, the heavenly dragonfish would surely not have released its grip. Everyone around fell silent for a brief moment. Then the chatter became even louder and more intense than before. This fishing. I've never seen anyone so fortunate to encounter a heavenly dragonfish before. There's something fishy going on. There must be something fishy. The voices spread like waves. Bai Xiaochun felt uneasy, especially when he saw the sea god Great Venerable standing there, as if deeply provoked. He felt a sense of dread throughout his body. Then he hastily took the heavenly dragonfish away, regretfully intending to end this fishing session. They ultimately fought because they bit the bait. The Great Venerable sea god stared blankly at Bai Xiaochun, then glanced at his precious fishing hook still submerged in the water. With no fish showing any interest, he felt that he had been fishing here for over 100 years, and he and Bai Xiaochun weren't even in the same heavenly pond. Seeing Bai Xiaochun about to leave, the Great Venerable sea god's breathing suddenly became extremely rapid. He suddenly jumped up, directly blocking Bai Xiaochun's path. While Bai Xiaochun was startled and wary, the Great Venerable sea god's eyes turned red, staring intently at the fishing rod in Bai Xiaochun's hand. "Bai Taoist, are you selling this fishing rod? How?" Bai Xiaochun was stunned, looking at the Great Venerable sea god in front of him with bloodshot eyes, vaguely ferocious. He lowered his head and looked at his own fishing rod for a moment, and immediately understood. This great sea god saw through the trick, realizing that although he was able to catch the heavenly dragonfish, it was all because of this special fishing rod, as expected of the most powerful demigod in the fishing field. To be able to fish here for over 100 years, his eyesight is truly unique. Bai Xiaochun was deeply moved. Actually, the key reason he could fish was the scent of the illusionary wisdom pill on this fishing hook. "Bai Taoist, name your price. I really want this fishing hook." The sea god Great Venerable took a deep breath, finally managing to calm down. Seeing Bai Xiaochun hesitate, he became a little impatient. If it were anyone else, he would have snatched it long ago. But Bai Xiaochun himself was a Tongtian master. Whether in rank or cultivation, he was superior to himself. Although he didn't care about these 2 points, he still had to fear Bai Xiaochun's status as the top figure in the Tongtian world. Therefore, he had no way to force them. They could only willingly agree to the transaction. At this moment, everyone around, after hearing the words of the Great Venerable sea god, all turned their thoughts to this fishing rod. The more they thought about it, the more they felt there was something wrong with it. Gradually, their eyes lit up with enthusiasm. However, fearing the Great Venerable sea god's status, they all hesitated. But some cultivators, seeing this situation, immediately took out their jade slips and quickly transmitted a message to the powerful figures behind their families. Brother Bai, you've just arrived in our holy emperor city, and you certainly don't have much money, so I'll offer 1,000,000 spirit stones to buy this fishing rod from you. Is that all right? The great venerable sea god hastily said. He was also worried that if he delayed any longer, after others heard about it, they would surely come to snatch it up. At that point, it would be even more difficult for him to obtain this fishing rod. Bai Xiaochun hesitated for a moment. It wasn't that he didn't want to sell it, but he knew this fishing rod was no longer effective. If someone bought it, they wouldn't be able to catch any heavenly dragon fish. Selling it would be too deceptive. Bai Xiaochun considered himself a good person. He felt a little uncomfortable doing something so blatantly deceiving someone. Great venerable sea god, even if you buy this fishing rod, it's useless. Bai Xiaochun sighed, finally deciding not to harm this old man. As soon as he said this, great venerable sea god became anxious. He was about to speak, but Bai Xiaochun raised his hand to stop him. Bai Xiaochun thought for a moment, a sense of relief emanating from him, and anxiously said, Great venerable sea god, fishing shouldn't be rushed. You must remember that what I obtain is due to my luck, and what I lose is my fate. With such understanding in his heart, he was able to achieve inner peace and tranquility, naturally encompassing the heavens and earth, which embrace all things. All things possess spirits, resonating with others. Simultaneously, this resonated with the heavenly dragonfish, causing it to proactively approach and forge a lifelong bond. This is life. You see, he said, I was fishing just now, but in reality, I was contemplating life. The reason those fish came wasn't because of the hook, but because they wanted to become a part of my life. Bai Xiaochun held the fishing rod in one hand and placed the other behind his back, his expression filled with emotion, his words echoing. Everyone around him was slightly astonished. The sea god Great Venerable's face instantly darkened. Those words, spoken by him as if boasting, had come from his mouth before Bai Xiaochun started fishing. Now, hearing them again, he felt that Bai Xiaochun before him was utterly infuriating. The more Bai Xiaochun refused, the more determined he became. I'll give you 30 more divine barrier pills. The sea god Great Venerable gritted his teeth. He was truly desperate for this fishing rod. Even if it only caught a few fish, he still felt it was valuable. Sea god Great Venerable, you're buying this fishing rod. It's useless. Why do you have to make things difficult for me? Bai Xiaochun was very frustrated. Stop talking nonsense. Even if it's useless, I still want to buy it. I'll give you 10 more immortal void pills. Just say, will you sell it or not? The sea god Great Venerable's eyes turned even redder as he glared at Bai Xiaochun. You need to think carefully. My experience and background in the Holy Imperial Dynasty are extremely impressive. Even Chen Su would have to address me as master upon seeing me. These words clearly carried a hint of intimidation. Under different circumstances, the sea god wouldn't have acted this way. But today, he was truly anxious. Upon hearing this threat, Bai Xiaochun's eyes widened. Old man, you bought this fishing rod? If it becomes useless later, don't come looking for me. Everyone will be my witness. Bai Xiaochun inwardly snorted coldly, speaking loudly. Having said that, the sea god Great Venerable hesitated. But he noticed a smug look in Bai Xiaochun's eyes when he saw his hesitation, so he gritted his teeth. No problem. These spirit stones and elixirs, while incredibly extravagant for an ordinary demigod of fortune equivalent to half a lifetime's worth, were insignificant to the sea god Great Venerable. But for him, it wasn't a case of losing a single hair from 9 oxen. It wouldn't affect the overall situation. He immediately took out his bag, put the exchange items inside, and threw it to Bai Xiaochun. After Bai Xiaochun checked it for a while and confirmed it was correct, he glanced at the sea god Great Venerable before handing over the fishing rod. He waved his sleeve and left the crowd, returning to the blessed land. Beside the heavenly pond, the sea god Great Venerable held the fishing rod, his heart burning with impatience, and hurried to Bai Xiaochun's previous spot. After a moment of hesitation, he didn't cast the line but turned and left. Everyone around was watching. Seeing the sea god Great Venerable leave, they all became anxious, but they were helpless and could only gradually disperse. After wandering around the Holy Emperor City, the sea god Great Venerable went to a secluded spot and began secretly trying his luck at fishing. Watching the hook sink into the water, the heavenly dragonfish inside initially approached a little, but quickly ignored it. The sea god's expression remained unchanged as he retracted his fishing rod. A glint flashed in his eyes. "Do you really think I'm fooled? That amount of money is nothing. Even if this fishing rod isn't effective, there's definitely something wrong with it. I can't figure it out in a short time, but sooner or later, I'll definitely find a clue." After the sea god Great Venerable's gaze swept over the fishing rod, his eyes finally fell on the hook. He held it in front of him, carefully examined it, and then sniffed it. It looks normal, but there's something strange about it. Moreover, so many people have seen this fishing rod catch 3 heavenly dragonfish, yet no one has seen it used a 4th time. With a little exaggeration, selling it at an exorbitant price to collect and hoard it isn't impossible. After the sea god Great Venerable departed, as everyone dispersed, such a legendary story quickly spread throughout the Holy Emperor City. None of the powerful figures in the court were overly surprised, especially upon hearing that the fishing rod had been bought by the sea god Great Venerable. Everyone immediately grasped the crucial point. Even the Holy Emperor heard about it. Compared to others, he understood the heavenly dragonfish he raised better. He knew that while the concept of destiny might truly exist, it was very difficult to have 3 fish that matched his expectations in a row. In utter astonishment, the Holy Emperor's eyes flashed, and his ancient cultivation consciousness instantly spread out, merging into the celestial pool. After scanning one of the heavenly dragonfish, he found no trace of magical fluctuations. He even commanded that the fishing rod the sea god Great Venerable had taken be brought before him. After careful examination, he found no clues whatsoever. This aroused suspicion in the Holy Emperor. However, with 3 heavenly dragonfish missing, the Holy Emperor pondered for a moment, then didn't pay too much attention. This was a crucial time for him to cultivate a certain Tao technique. He didn't have time to be distracted. So he entered the secret chamber and began his secluded cultivation. He didn't speak a word all night. Throughout the night, Bai Xiaochun was somewhat anxious. But even until dawn, no one came looking for him. Bai Xiaochun's eyes suddenly lit up. "It's all right." Bai Xiaochun laughed heartily, licking his lips. First, he took out one of the 3 heavenly dragonfish and roasted it. He stewed one. He simply sliced another and skewered it. After cultivating through breathing exercises, at sunset, when he opened his eyes, they were filled with light. He eagerly picked up an ordinary fishing rod. After finding a spot, he immediately began fishing. That day, Bai Xiaochun caught over 20 fish in one go. The onlookers were all stunned. Then, they all let out exclamations of surprise and endless chatter. On the 3rd day, Bai Xiaochun discovered that no one was stopping him anymore, so he gritted his teeth and finally caught over 100 fish in one go. The powerful figures in the court were all shocked and watched intently, but the Holy Emperor was in seclusion. Then, on the 4th and 5th days, Bai Xiaochun's boldness grew even greater. The number of heavenly dragonfish he caught increased steadily. Initially, it was over 100, but it became 600 or 700 each day. My God, something big has happened. Bai Xiaochun has caught thousands of them. The entire heavenly pond only has a little over 20,000. He's poking at the Holy Emperor's wall. He's about to be completely hollowed out. This kind of fishing speed was like a storm, constantly erupting throughout the entire Holy Imperial dynasty. Lasting only half a month, this violent storm intensified, reaching earth-shattering levels. The civil and military officials of the Holy Imperial dynasty were terrified to the extreme. Even several heavenly venerables were shaken. But Bai Xiaochun's sensitive identity meant they couldn't find any clues, and were powerless to stop it. They could only persevere. Even if the Holy Emperor was in seclusion, they would still stubbornly barge in to pay their respects. Amidst this storm, only the Marquis Liu Jiang who stamped his foot and sighed. "Don't blame me for not warning you." In the eyes of outsiders, this heavenly dragonfish storm was earth-shattering within the Holy Imperial City, but the storm raging in their hearts was also tinged with a hint of secret joy. At the same time, the voices criticizing Bai Xiaochun grew louder and louder. Within the Holy Imperial Palace, in its deepest recesses, lies a pool surrounded by artificial mountains rising like a forest. The concentration of spiritual energy here is arguably the highest in the entire Holy Imperial Dynasty. This place is also permeated by invisible restrictions and enveloped in the power of supreme treasures. If one carefully senses it, they can perceive that this pool seems to be connected to the entire celestial pond and the towering mountains of the Holy Imperial City. This overwhelming aura is enough to cause a powerful shock to anyone who approaches. It can be said that, looking across the entire eternal world, the level of defense here is second to none. Even the evil emperor himself would face some restrictions here. Not to mention the group of people including Gu Tianjun, who were heavenly venerates. Unless absolutely necessary, they wouldn't willingly come here to disturb the Holy Emperor's seclusion. After all, as cultivators, their seclusion is usually at a crucial moment in the development of a particular divine ability or cultivation level. Only then can they completely seal off their spiritual consciousness and fully immerse themselves. Once disturbed, even if they reach the Holy Emperor's level, they wouldn't easily suffer from Qi deviation, but the fluctuations in their minds would still cause their cultivation to fail. But they really had no choice but to come. Gu Tianjun, Chen Su, and a middle-aged man in a scholarly robe exchanged glances. The four heavenly venerates of the Holy Emperor Dynasty, except for one guarding the second immortal realm, the other three in Holy Emperor City, had all arrived. If this continues, by the time the Holy Emperor emerges from seclusion, those heavenly dragonfish of his will surely be extinct. Chen Su's voice, filled with mournful despair and clenched teeth, echoed everywhere. This is that damned by Xiaochun, or perhaps we should find a crime to frame him with and temporarily capture him. The middle-aged man in the scholarly robe looked at Chen Su's exaggeratedly mournful demeanor with a hint of contempt in his heart. A sharp, profound look appeared in his eyes. He himself also spoke loudly. According to my opinion, there's no need to disturb the Holy Emperor. Let me just go and chop this Bai Xiaochun down with a single sword strike. Gu Tianjun snorted coldly, a murderous glint in his eyes. He had long disliked Bai Xiaochun and intended to take action, but he had been subtly restrained by Chen Su and the middle-aged cultivator before him. According to Chen Su and the middle-aged scholar, the Holy Emperor Dynasty was not the evil Emperor Dynasty after all. Everything here was about outward regulations. Bai Xiaochun hadn't violated the Holy Emperor Dynasty's laws, and his status was somewhat special. Even though the three of them were heavenly venerables, they couldn't easily take forceful action. Most importantly, if Bai Xiaochun were easy to kill, then so be it. They already knew that Bai Xiaochun possessed a world treasure, and they understood that any one of them, although capable of suppressing Bai Xiaochun, couldn't end the battle quickly once they attacked, unless all three attacked simultaneously. But if they did that, the consequences would be too great. It would likely be even more serious than the storm surrounding the heavenly dragonfish. Gu Tianjun had heard these words so many times over the past few days that he was getting annoyed. He naturally understood the karmic consequences behind these two people's obstruction of him. Gu Tianjun knew this well. He felt constrained by Bai Xiaochun's methods. In fact, they all understood that if these heavenly dragonfish belonged to the three of them, they wouldn't be able to control Bai Xiaochun's actions and would have acted long ago. But after all, these heavenly dragonfish belonged to the Holy Emperor. Another major point was that although Bai Xiaochun could fish continuously for half a month, the powerful figures in the court only expressed their anger verbally, outwardly showing it as an outburst. But in reality, no one ever bothered to interfere, because Bai Xiaochun didn't keep it all for himself. For half a month, every day he would take out a portion of heavenly dragonfish and give it to the powerful figures in the court, including Chen Su, including the middle-aged scholar. Even Gu Tianjun's household received quite a few heavenly dragonfish from Bai Xiaochun. Having taken Bai Xiaochun's fish, they naturally wanted more. However, these guys were all cunning old foxes, so expressing their anger was inevitable. The reason they came here to warn the Holy Emperor was merely to show off. The three of them exchanged glances. Earlier, they had deliberately spoken loudly, expressing what needed to be expressed. As their cultivation increased, they were confident their words had reached the Holy Emperor's secluded cultivation area. They didn't say anything more. Very quickly, another powerful wave of energy suddenly erupted from within the pond. With a loud bang, the entire Holy Emperor city trembled. Inside the Blessed Land, Bai Xiaochun, who was eating grilled fish, also shivered. He cautiously glanced towards the imperial palace. A few days ago, that old scoundrel Chen Su hinted at me, saying the Holy Emperor was in seclusion. This aura, the Holy Emperor has come out of seclusion. Bai Xiaochun felt a little nervous, but thinking about how he had distributed almost 3/3 of the heavenly dragonfish in the past half-month, he felt much more at ease. The law doesn't punish the masses. Besides, I captured the heavenly venerate and brought them here. Eating a few fish shouldn't be a problem, right? Bai Xiaochun touched his nose and coughed a few times. He felt somewhat uneasy. He glanced at the fish in front of him and took a big bite. It seemed that eating grilled heavenly dragonfish could make him feel much more at ease. At this moment, deep within the imperial palace, following the aura erupting from the pond parted on its own. The Holy Emperor, dressed entirely in green, slowly emerged. The three of them, including Du Tianjun, took a deep breath and immediately bowed to the Holy Emperor. The Holy Emperor's expression was somewhat grim. The words these three had spoken earlier, spoken so loudly and deliberately amplified by their increased cultivation level. How could he not have heard them? At this moment, his divine consciousness suddenly spread out, sweeping across the entire Holy Emperor city. He now fully understood what had happened. But the more he understood, the more his mind was shaken. Especially when he discovered that the number of heavenly dragonfish in the celestial pool had decreased by almost 2/3. Even as a Saint Emperor, he felt a sharp pang in his heart. This feeling of heartache was incredibly intense. My fish. The Saint Emperor struggled to control his breath, glaring fiercely at the three of them, including Du Tianjun. He understood these three heavenly venerables very well. He knew that these three were both seeking benefits from Bai Xiaochun and trying to show off, which led to today's situation. Thinking about how Bai Xiaochun could take and distribute so many heavenly dragonfish, it meant that currently, not every powerful family in the entire court possessed immense power. Even the Saint Emperor fell silent. His facial muscles twitched a few times, as if he were using an immense force, striking the cotton plant. Firstly, Bai Xiaochun had a special status. Secondly, the heavenly dragonfish had been distributed to too many people. No matter what he did, it was a headache. Punishing Bai Xiaochun this crime wasn't punishable by death, and imprisonment was difficult. At most, it would only result in a fine. But today, Bai Xiaochun was dirt poor. The Holy Emperor knew that the other party wasn't worried about being punished at all. After all, his special status this made the Holy Emperor's headache even worse. It seemed the only path before him was exile from the capital. But he absolutely wouldn't agree to this. What a clever Bai Xiaochun! Is he trying to force me to let him go? A moment later, the Holy Emperor took a deep breath, suddenly raised his right hand, and swept it towards the entire heavenly pond. With this wave of his hand, an earth-shattering blast of cold air erupted. Amidst the rumbling sounds, countless people in the Holy Emperor City's palace, who were paying attention to this event, were horrified to discover that the spreading cold air directly enveloped the entire heavenly pond. In the blink of an eye, amidst countless cracking sounds, the heavenly pond of the Holy Emperor City froze at a speed visible to the naked eye. All of this happened in just over 10 breaths. The cold air of the Holy Emperor City permeated the air. The entire surface of the lake froze. This freezing wasn't just turning the water of the heavenly pond into ice, but was like a seal. The ice formed a thick layer, as if it had been cut. Unless one's cultivation reached a level capable of breaking the Holy Emperor's technique, it was simply impossible to break through the ice, and of course, there was no way to continue fishing. I've sealed off the lake's surface. Let's see how you managed to catch them. The Holy Emperor's expression was grim, and he waved his sleeve. Ignoring the three of them, Chen Su and the others returned to the pond to continue their seclusion. The three of them exchanged glances, each clearing their throats a few times before leaving. Soon, the news of the sealed heavenly pond spread throughout the entire Holy Emperor City. Those powerful figures who had benefited from Bai Xiaochun immediately fell silent. As for the others, although they also made a fuss, they couldn't cause any real trouble. As for Bai Xiaochun, after realizing the heavenly pond was sealed, he breathed a sigh of relief. He knew he had overcome this hurdle. But thinking about it again, he felt unwilling. To Stingy, as a holy emperor, there are over 20,000 heavenly dragonfish in this heavenly pond. In the past half month, I've only caught over 3,000. There are still over 10,000 left. I've spent so much capital, So many illusionary wisdom pills. Bai Xiaochun felt a little regretful. However, thinking about how he had consumed the heavenly dragonfish for the past half-month, and how his cultivation had suddenly increased dramatically, he had now consumed so much that he could barely increase his cultivation any further. This feeling of regret lessened considerably. But looking at the layer of ice above the heavenly pond, Bai Xiaochun always felt like he had overlooked something strange. I always feel like something is wrong. Bai Xiaochun was famous. If his previous fame was due to capturing the ghost mother and being the ancestor of the Tongshan world, then now his fame was entirely based on those heavenly dragonfish. In a short period of time, the name of Tongshan Gong Bai Xiaochun had shaken the entire Holy Emperor city. Have you heard? This Tongshan Gong caught over 3,000 heavenly dragonfish. Finally, His Majesty the Holy Emperor didn't punish him. Not only did he not punish him, but the Holy Emperor directly sealed off the heavenly pond. To be able to force the Holy Emperor to seal off the heavenly pond, this Bai Xiaochun is truly unimaginable. If you give him another half a month, this guy could make the heavenly dragonfish extinct. Various discussions continuously erupted within the Holy Emperor city, spreading outwards. Bai Xiaochun also felt it very clearly. Every time he went out, he found that the gazes secretly observing him increased several times over. In the end, almost wherever he went, there were whispers and gossip behind his back. It seems I'm really too outstanding. Even the cultivators in the eternal immortal realm can't restrain their feelings towards me. Bai Xiaochun coughed lightly, feeling nostalgic for this kind of feeling. He wasn't at all unaccustomed to it. In fact, he had experienced many similar situations in the past. But just as Bai Xiaochun was getting emotional, that barbarian Marquis Liu Jianhu thought he had found an opportunity, seeing hope in this matter. Therefore, during a morning court session after the Holy Emperor emerged from seclusion, he excitedly accused Bai Xiaochun. I've discovered Bai Xiaochun's method of stealing the heavenly dragonfish. After several days of research and gaining a thorough understanding of Bai Xiaochun, I even went to great lengths to obtain a heavenly dragonfish for study, and finally understood completely. Your Majesty, Bai Xiaochun must have used some kind of elixir. The alchemy methods of the Tongshan world, although I, the former minister, don't understand much, I can vaguely discern a difference from our Holy Emperor dynasty. Therefore, he must have used some kind of elixir to harm these revered heavenly dragonfish, stealing them one by one. Those heavenly dragonfish are innocent after all. As national treasures, they never knew the terrifying wickedness of human hearts and were cruelly murdered. This is the greatest injustice since the founding of our dynasty. It truly enrages everyone, both gods and men. I, the former minister, must vindicate those heavenly dragonfish. I humbly request your Majesty to issue an order to throw Bai Xiaochun into the heavenly pond to be food for the fish. Liu Jianhu, during a court meeting, in front of all the civil and military officials, and right in front of Bai Xiaochun, stepped forward, bowed to the Holy Emperor, and immediately spoke in a booming, rapid-fire voice. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath. This kind of morning court session was once a month. Calculating the time, this was his first time participating. Initially, he was a little nervous, worried that someone would mention the heavenly dragonfish. But after waiting for half a day, no one mentioned it, and seeing that the Holy Emperor remained as gentle as ever, Bai Xiaochun felt relieved. He stood among the crowd, still uneasy. But he didn't expect that, just as the court session was about to end, this Liu Jianhu would jump out. This enraged Bai Xiaochun. I say, old Liu, when I brought the heavenly dragonfish, out of consideration for you being from the Tongshan world, I even gave you an extra one. Now you want to use the fish to accuse me? Just you wait. Bai Xiaochun sneered inwardly, glaring at Liu Jianhu. He was determined to find a way to deal with this guy. He'd let this fellow escape back in the savage wilderness. Now here, let's see how he'll get away. In the main hall square, everyone displayed a strange expression, looking towards Liu Jianhu, then glancing at Bai Xiaochun. But no one spoke. Many even frowned. Their gazes towards Liu Jianhu were somewhat chilling. It was evident that they favored Bai Xiaochun. If it were any other matter, they would certainly have added insult to injury. After all, even now, they still disliked Bai Xiaochun. But these people almost all held Bai Xiaochun's heavenly dragonfish. In their opinion, this was a sensitive issue. If it was already over, and even the Holy Emperor had tacitly accepted it and wouldn't bring it up again. Why was Liu Tianhu so blind as to openly bring it up during this morning's court session? Even the Holy Emperor's eyebrows subtly furrowed. He was unwilling to bring up the matter again. The loss of the heavenly dragonfish could be said to have been orchestrated by Bai Xiaochun, once again dividing up the power among the court's nobles. Every time he thought about it, he felt heartbroken. He wouldn't normally eat those heavenly dragonfish, but rather use them as rewards, like national treasures. But today, especially after the other party said these things, the Holy Emperor wasn't completely clueless. After his investigation, he did find some clues within the heavenly pool, but they were useless. Bai Xiaochun was too cautious. This illusionary wisdom pill was also very fast. Therefore, even the Holy Emperor could only briefly investigate and was left helpless. Of course, if he were truly determined to investigate, he could still find out. However, after comparing the two, the Holy Emperor decided to restrain himself. But he also had his bottom line. The freezing of the heavenly pool was just a formality. He planned to unfreeze it a few months later. If Bai Xiaochun continues fishing, he's simply courting death. My dear minister, do you have any evidence? The Holy Emperor suppressed his displeasure and spoke indifferently. Your Majesty, you'll know after investigating. Liu Tianhu exclaimed excitedly. All right, you may leave. I will arrange for someone to investigate this matter. After saying this, the Holy Emperor stood up, ending the court session. As everyone watched the Holy Emperor leave, they dispersed. However, before leaving, many looked at Liu Tianhu with cold eyes. At this moment, Liu Tianhu also sensed something was amiss. His body trembled. He understood that the Holy Emperor's earlier words were merely a formality. He felt a sudden surge of sorrow and indignation. You don't understand. You will surely regret it. This Bai Xiaochun, he is fundamentally a great disaster. Liu Tianhu was consumed by grief and resentment, and Bai Xiaochun's anger only intensified. He glared fiercely at Liu Tianhu, snorting. His resolve to deal with this man grew even stronger. Only then did he leave the imperial palace with everyone else. It was late autumn. After the court session ended, on the way back to the Blessed Land, Bai Xiaochun pondered how to deal with Liu Tianhu while casually observing the frozen heavenly pond, sighing inwardly. Fortunately, this heavenly dragonfish has lost its effect on me. I won't need to fish for it anymore. Bai Xiaochun shook his head. He was about to return to the Blessed Land, but his steps suddenly halted. He looked towards the frozen heavenly pond, gazing at the thick layer of ice. He vaguely saw a heavenly dragonfish beneath, trying to break through it. But how could a heavenly dragonfish possibly break through the ice created by this technique? Yet, this scene unfolded before Bai Xiaochun's eyes. Gradually, his breathing became rapid, and sweat began to bead on his forehead. I finally know why I felt something was wrong. Bai Xiaochun's eyes widened, his heart rate quickening. He suddenly remembered something he had forgotten earlier. These fish, they were previously addicted to the illusionary wisdom pill. During the past half-month of fishing, I occasionally threw out some illusionary wisdom pills, which, although increasing their addiction, also lessened it. But now, it's frozen here. These fish don't have the illusionary wisdom pill, and it's like they suddenly stopped taking their addiction. Thinking of this, Bai Xiaochun felt sweat break out all over his body. These fish won't go berserk. Bai Xiaochun was terrified. He hesitated, wondering if he should remind the Holy Emperor. But then he thought if he did, it would be like inviting trouble, so he sighed. This, I can't be blamed. It was the Holy Emperor who froze the heavenly pond. Bai Xiaochun muttered a few words, then hurried back to his blessed land. For the next few days, Bai Xiaochun was terrified every day. Any rustling of leaves made him extremely anxious. He didn't know if it was an illusion or not, but he felt that beneath the frozen heavenly pond, those heavenly dragonfish were about to go completely insane. I also want to continue giving you the wisdom illusion pills. Bai Xiaochun frowned and sighed. One early morning, suddenly, the entire Holy Emperor city shook violently. Like an earthquake shaking the earth, many lotus leaves trembled violently. Even the lotus flowers in the imperial palace shook. A loud explosion echoed in all directions, causing countless buildings to tremble uncontrollably. This further terrified all the cultivators within the city, who rushed out in panic. What's happening? Is there an enemy attack? Every noble was shocked and astonished. The three heavenly venerables, Shen and Su, suddenly spread their divine consciousness even within the imperial palace. In that instant, their vast divine consciousness suddenly surged, sweeping across the heavens and earth. That is, heavenly dragonfish. They've gone mad. They're gnawing on the lotus leaves. As everyone's divine consciousness spread out, they instantly saw many heavenly dragonfish beneath the lotus leaves in the lake. They couldn't break through the ice, and now they were beneath the lotus leaf, at its very foundation, their eyes blazing with fury, tearing at it frantically. Bai Xiaochun also witnessed this scene, his mouth agape, tears welling up in his eyes. The heavenly dragonfish throughout the entire heavenly pond became agitated. Although the heavenly pond was frozen by the Holy Emperor, the freeze only covered the surface of the lake. Even though this ice contained fluctuations of magical techniques, the heavenly dragonfish couldn't break through it. But there were still thousands of lotus leaves on the entire heavenly pond. These lotus leaves couldn't be frozen either. If the heavenly pond was the foundation of the Holy Emperor City, then these thousands of lotus leaves were the ground of the Holy Emperor City. Countless buildings were constructed on the lotus leaves, surrounding the imperial palace in the center of the lotus flower. It was precisely because the lotus leaves couldn't be frozen that the addiction of these heavenly dragonfish flared up. Unable to withstand the illusionary wisdom pill for long in their frenzy, they targeted these lotus leaves. The roots beneath the lotus leaves were especially important. At this moment, it was visible that at the roots of some lotus leaves, many celestial dragonfish were frantically gnawing and biting. Even some lotus leaves had tilted to one side. The previous earth-shattering tremor was caused by this. Many lotus leaves were almost gnawed through. At the edges of the lotus leaves, several heavenly dragonfish were frantically bitten, their bites uneven and inconsistent looking around. The entire Holy Imperial City seemed to be in great turmoil, but what shocked people the most was that there were quite a few heavenly dragonfish in this celestial pond. Their target wasn't the lotus leaves, but the lotus vine beneath the Imperial Palace. At the vine, those red-eyed heavenly dragonfish were relentlessly gnawing and tearing. Therefore, the lotus flowers were shaken, as if bowing their heads, causing loud explosions to resound from the imperial palace above. Clearly, it was tilting such a scene shocked all the cultivators who witnessed it. Their minds were like being overwhelmed by a tidal wave. At the same time, a furious roar suddenly erupted from within the imperial palace. Bai Xiaochun. This earth-shattering roar echoed throughout the entire Holy Emperor City. Meanwhile, Bai Xiaochun, inside the Blessed Land, frowned, his mind in turmoil. This really can't be blamed on me. I just wanted to catch a few fish. It was you who sealed off the entire heavenly pond. Bai Xiaochun's face was gloomy. This time, he truly only wanted to catch a few fish. He couldn't control what happened afterward. His mind raced, searching for a way to resolve the situation. I've made such great contributions, and I only wanted a few fish. Why does this holy emperor need to seal off the heavenly pond? Bai Xiaochun sighed repeatedly, feeling that this matter was getting complicated. Simultaneously, the entire holy emperor city trembled. In an instant, the holy emperor's figure reappeared in midair. His face was contorted slightly. He looked around at everything, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. Although he had no evidence to prove that all of this was caused by Bai Xiaochun. The strangeness of the heavenly dragonfish made him instinctively guess that all of this must be related to Bai Xiaochun's fishing antics earlier. A murderous intent surged within him, but he forcefully suppressed it. He didn't have time to deal with Bai Xiaochun right now. The entire Holy Emperor City was in grave danger. He immediately raised his right hand and firmly pressed it towards the heavenly pond. With this single seal, an immense and awe-inspiring primordial cultivation level suddenly erupted from the Holy Emperor's body, directly obscuring the sky and enveloping the 8 directions of the world. As he fiercely grabbed with his right hand, the icy aura of this eternal world seemed to surge from all directions. Boom! Amidst the resounding roar, the sky changed color. The entire sky appeared distorted. A chilling aura descended from the void, from the sky, from the ground, and instantly condensed within the Holy Emperor City. After the Holy Emperor made a gesture, the chilling aura sank and merged into the ice of the heavenly pool. In an instant, cracking sounds echoed throughout the heavens and earth. The surface of the heavenly pool, which had only been frozen, instantly became covered in ice. All the water, from bottom to top, froze. Even the agitated heavenly dragonfish inside were instantly covered in ice by the spreading cold air. In the blink of an eye, the entire heavenly pond became a massive block of ice. But it wasn't over yet. The Holy Emperor's expression turned grim. He formed a hand seal and suddenly pointed. Instantly, the primordial cultivation within his body transformed into some kind of divine power, illuminating the heavens and the earth, as if his entire being had become a sun. This sun emitted a dazzling light, yet it contained no trace of heat. Aside from the light, there was only a divine power, refined to the extreme, erupting from within. With a loud bang, this light, imbued with divinity and purity, enveloped the entire Holy Emperor city, directly piercing through the ice of the heavenly pond and sweeping over the bodies of the more than 10,000 heavenly dragonfish frozen from within. All illnesses, all tempers, even the minor injuries inflicted by the fighting among the heavenly dragonfish before Bai Xiaochun arrived at the Holy Emperor city, all of these were instantly restored to normal in this single moment. Everything affecting his body was purified in an instant. After experiencing this purification method, Bai Xiaochun couldn't help but take a deep breath, his mind greatly shaken. He had a new understanding of the immense power of the primordial era. All of this happened suddenly. But from the heavenly dragonfish's tempers to the Holy Emperor's intervention, it was only a few short breaths. Very quickly, when all the heavenly dragonfish were purified, the ice of the heavenly pool melted. The lake water became clear, revealing the heavenly dragonfish within. Each one was regaining its activity, completely devoid of any tempers, swimming leisurely in the lake as before. Such a scene not only brought relief to Bai Xiaochun, but also eased the minds of every cultivator in the Holy Emperor city. However, within the entire Holy Emperor city, they saw the lotus leaves, which could not be healed by magic in a short time and were damaged to varying degrees. The lotus flower and the imperial palace tilted to one side, their anger still burning fiercely. Especially the Holy Emperor. At this moment, the Holy Emperor's rage reached its limit, almost to the point of wanting to kill Bai Xiaochun without regard for the greater good. But in the end, the Holy Emperor restrained himself, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. He knew that in the coming days, with Bai Xiaochun being bestowed the title of Tongshan Duke by him, this kind of priceless acquisition would be like raising a banner in the Holy Emperor dynasty, making all the cultivators of the Tongshan world in the eternal immortal realm look to this place as their hope. Even based on his intelligence, many cultivators from the Tongshan world were heading towards the Holy Emperor dynasty. All of this made it impossible for him to kill Bai Xiaochun. Wait until the day you become useless, then I will settle the score with you. Then the Holy Emperor gritted his teeth, took a deep breath, and still felt that this matter needed punishment. So he coldly snorted and issued a decree. Take back the 10,000 years' salary of Tongshan Gong and punish him by making him clean up the excrement for the heavenly dragonfish. Take back Tongshan Gong's colored silk sash and punish him by making him repair the lotus leaves of the Holy Emperor dynasty. After saying this, even the Holy Emperor felt that this punishment wasn't enough. In desperation, he remembered what Liu Yang had said before, confirming that what he said was indeed correct. Appoint Liu Yang as the supervising envoy. The Holy Emperor took another deep breath and issued another decree. At this moment, he waved his sleeve, his face grim, and returned to the imperial palace. Meanwhile, the anger of the entire Holy Emperor city towards Bai Xiaochun had reached an intense level. Inside a blessed land, the Marquis Liu Tiao was extremely excited as he received the imperial decree. He understood that his promotion was due to the Holy Emperor realizing that Bai Xiaochun was a formidable opponent. This was a plan to use him to monitor Bai Xiaochun. Your Majesty, rest assured, this humble servant will use my eyes to closely observe Bai Xiaochun, and with all the might of my divine pen, write down every major crime he has committed, composing it into a memorial. At the same time, while the entire city was seething with anger, Bai Xiaochun breathed a sigh of relief, looking towards the imperial palace. I almost touched the very foundation of the Holy Emperor city, and yet I only received these punishments. Bai Xiaochun's eyes widened, sensing the Holy Emperor's hidden killing intent. He inwardly shuddered. After pondering for a while, he felt it was more appropriate to live peacefully for a period of time. Therefore, in his later life, although Bai Xiaochun frowned and scowled, he still couldn't help but clean up the excrement of the heavenly dragonfish. Even if people pointed fingers and spoke ill of him behind his back, he could only choose to ignore it. However, it was also beneficial. Every day he toiled outside, gradually hearing many people's discussions about the eternal world, and he understood this world more. Just like Gongsun Water had said before, after the heavenly venerate comes the primordial, and after the primordial comes the Lord. Bai Xiaochun clearly confirmed that Gongsun Water hadn't deceived him. At the same time, according to a letter from the giant ghost king, Bai Xiaochun also confirmed that the people of the Tongshan world who practiced spirit cultivation, the Holy Emperor Dynasty and the Evil Emperor Dynasty, were indeed incapable of doing it. This was also one of the reasons why they were so greedy for cultivators in the Tongshan world. In the letter, the giant demon king also expressed his resentment. His divine Lulu continent was barren and sparsely populated. However, the incident of him and Bai Xiaochun capturing the demon mother had shaken the entire world. Therefore, many cultivators from the Tongshan world actively sought him out. But after these cultivators from the Tongshan world arrived, they were all harassed by the heavenly venerables of the second immortal realm where the giant demon king resided, and then dispersed throughout the continents. The giant demon king worried that from then on, it wouldn't be long before they were assimilated by the Holy Emperor Dynasty. If that continued, the Tongshan world would change its name and cease to exist. Reading the letter, Bai Xiaochun fell silent. He knew that for the cultivators of the Tongshan world, being able to cultivate peacefully and live a stable life was their aspiration. But what he wanted to do was give these people a choice. The choice is to be assimilated by the Holy Imperial Dynasty, or to live forever without forgetting their homeland. The Holy Imperial Dynasty will not give them this choice. What Bai Xiaochun wants to do is secure this choice for the people of the Tongshan world. Whichever they choose, it is an unchangeable matter. Only when I become stronger can I secure this opportunity for the people of the Tongshan world. Thinking this, Bai Xiaochun's eyes gleamed. Although the thousands of heavenly dragonfish he had consumed earlier were now ineffective, they had brought immense benefits. His longevity scroll was continuously improving, only a tiny glimmer away from achieving great perfection. One more step and he would reach great perfection. At that point, he could attempt to break through to the demigod realm, enter the Great Ascension, and become a heavenly venerate. I need even more immortal elixirs and spiritual herbs to cultivate faster. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, his pupils scanning the Holy Emperor City, considering all the things that could increase his cultivation. But after thinking for a long time, Bai Xiaochun couldn't find any way to quickly increase his cultivation in a short time. Especially these heavenly dragonfish. He had eaten too many of them before, and they were ineffective. Only alchemy, Bai Xiaochun murmured. Although alchemy in the Tongshan world and the Eternal Continent had some differences, and alchemy consumed a lot of resources, Bai Xiaochun had no other choice. Most importantly, he had quite a few medicinal herbs in his storage bag. Besides, I still have some dried fish left. Bai Xiaochun lowered his head and glanced at his bag. He had caught too many fish earlier. Although he had given away quite a few, some had been dried and he kept some for himself. These dried fish can surely be sold for a good price. Thinking this, Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, but he still felt a little hesitant. In fact, in recent years, every time he practiced alchemy, he encountered all sorts of unexpected events. This had become a phobia for him, especially thinking about the possibility of problems arising during alchemy in the Holy Emperor City, which would surely be even more serious than the previous heavenly dragonfish riot. Bai Xiaochun felt gloomy. Time passed quickly, and another half-month went by. After Bai Xiaochun cleaned the heavenly pond, the heavenly dragonfish were happy again. Seeing life go on day by day, Bai Xiaochun gritted his teeth fiercely. I'll be careful, surely nothing will go wrong, Bai Xiaochun muttered to himself. Having made up his mind, he began purchasing the necessary materials for alchemy. After several days of hesitation, he finally had everything ready. With almost stealthy caution, he began refining the pills. Perhaps Bai Xiaochun's alchemy skills had improved, or perhaps his carefulness had paid off. After several successful batches of pills were produced, nothing unexpected happened. This made Bai Xiaochun incredibly happy. But he concluded that what had been a lesson learned from his previous arrogance was indeed a valuable experience. He continued to be cautious. Although the time it took to refine the pills was slow, it remained consistently stable. And so, time passed. Bai Xiaochun continued to attend the monthly court session. The only problem was that he was mostly the last to arrive, lazily standing there, slowly closing his eyes, ignoring everything around him. Aside from that, he devoted almost all his time to alchemy. Very quickly, several months passed. During this cultivation process, although Bai Xiaochun's cultivation speed wasn't as fast as consuming the heavenly dragonfish, it was incredibly steady and steadily progressing. According to his calculations, if his predictions were correct, in just a few more years, he could break through to the late half-god stage and become a great perfection cultivator. At the same time, both the powerful figures in the court and the Holy Emperor saw Bai Xiaochun's hidden presence during these months. Seeing that nothing terrible would happen, the burden in everyone's hearts was lifted. However, there were still many instances of hypocrisy, smiles, and sarcastic remarks. Even though Bai Xiaochun had been humble to everyone in the Holy Emperor dynasty, he was still an outsider. Bai Xiaochun pretended not to understand these words and had no interest in paying attention to them. He spent his days immersed in alchemy and cultivation, causing a long-awaited calm in the Holy Emperor city. The only one who wasn't happy was the Marquis Liu. He sharpened his sword, staring intently at Bai Xiaochun for a long time. But seeing Bai Xiaochun seemingly change his demeanor and remain calm, the Marquis Liu became anxious. He must have some big scheme. The Marquis Liu took a deep breath, firm in his judgment. Then, he stared at Bai Xiaochun even more intently. In this way, several more months passed. Autumn turned into winter, and now, in spring, lotus blossoms began to emerge from the water on the heavenly pond of the Holy Emperor dynasty. It was precisely after the lotus platform emerged from the water that all the cultivators within the Holy Emperor city witnessed this scene, each one filled with excitement. Discussions spread throughout the Holy Emperor city, a lotus platform floating on the water. Could it be another grand lotus feast awarding prizes? The last time a lotus platform floated was half a century ago. It's said that everyone who received lotus seeds saw a significant increase in cultivation after consuming them. It must be related to the divine power His Majesty the Holy Emperor displayed on the entire heavenly pond 6 months ago, causing the lotus platforms to surface prematurely. These discussions were numerous. Many even went to the edge of the lotus petals, gazing at the more than 10 lotus platforms that had appeared in the entire heavenly pond. Especially with the appearance of the lotus platforms, a fragrant aroma permeated the entire Holy Emperor city, filling it both inside and outside. Anyone who smelled it could significantly accelerate their cultivation progress. As news spread and people began discussing it, even though Bai Xiaochun rarely went out, he couldn't help but pay attention to the lotus platform. Gradually, he heard about it, especially the fragrant aroma that permeated the city, which greatly surprised Bai Xiaochun. Lotus platform. Driven by curiosity, Bai Xiaochun went out to investigate. Upon returning, his eyes lit up with excitement. Before, I always thought about the heavenly dragonfish, but I completely forgot that besides the heavenly dragonfish, there are other rare treasures in this celestial pond. Thinking about his discovery of the lotus platform, Bai Xiaochun's expression instantly lit up with unexpected joy. The reason the Holy Emperor city chose to build on the celestial lake was because there was a peerless immortal lotus in the pond. The immortal lotus was unparalleled in the world. There was only one such plant in the entire eternal continent. Even the evil emperor envied it. It was the ultimate treasure of the Holy Emperor dynasty. The roots of this immortal lotus spread across the land. Although it only has one lotus flower, it produces many lotus leaves. At the same time, there are countless lotus pods hidden underwater. Every 100 years, a portion of the pod will bloom, parting the water to reveal itself. The lotus seeds inside vary in size. The best ones even reach a certain level, surpassing immortal elixirs. Even those of slightly lower quality, as long as they can part the water to reveal themselves, can be compared to immortal elixirs. For the entire Holy Emperor dynasty, each time the lotus pod blooms, the lotus seeds inside are a treasure. However, the Holy Emperor has strict regulations regarding the harvesting of lotus seeds. No one within Holy Emperor City is qualified to take the lotus seeds. Only the Holy Emperor himself is allowed to harvest them. Each bloom allows only 1,000 lotus seeds to be taken, no more. Furthermore, only lotus pods that have emerged from the water are permitted to have their seeds harvested. That being said, from the first lotus bud to emerge from the water to each bud that appears in succession, The process of collecting all 1,000 seeds will take from half a month to a month. At the same time, during the blooming and harvesting of these lotus flowers, according to ancient custom, the Holy Emperor would hold a banquet. All the civil and military officials of the court would attend. During this banquet, they would drink immortal wine while waiting for the Holy Emperor to demonstrate the ancient method of harvesting the lotus seeds and distributing them to everyone. Normally, out of 1,000 lotus seeds, about 300 would be awarded to the top 300 civil and military officials in the court. Another 200 would be awarded to those who had rendered great service. Another 200 would be auctioned off to the world in designated locations. Finally, the remaining 300 would be brought into the imperial palace for use in alchemy. Currently, more than 10 lotus flowers have appeared. Rumors about the lotus banquet have spread throughout the Holy Emperor city. Even cultivators in the immortal realm of the Holy Emperor dynasty and the second immortal realm are excited. Each family is preparing to bid for them. These lotus seeds are comparable to immortal elixirs. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, his mind racing with his findings. Then he licked his lips, his eyes gleaming. With my status as the Tongshan grandmother, I should at least be rewarded with one. In Bai Xiaochun's anticipation, several days later, the sound of bells echoed continuously from the imperial palace. The lotus banquet, eagerly awaited by all the civil and military officials of the court, was finally about to begin. Bai Xiaochun suppressed his excitement, adjusted his attire, and then rushed straight to the imperial palace. Upon arrival, he saw thousands of small tables set up in the palace's vast square. Fine wines and immortal fruits were laden with food, and a large number of palace maids served as companions. Many powerful cultivators had already arrived and were now seated behind the tables, chatting happily. Among them were Chen Su and Gu Tianjun. They also caught sight of Bai Xiaochun. Gu Tianjun simply pretended not to see him. Although Chen Su disliked Bai Xiaochun inwardly, he maintained a gentle smile on the surface. Most of the other powerful cultivators were the same. However, deep within their eyes, there was still a hint of contempt. While outsiders couldn't see it, Bai Xiaochun, having cultivated for so many years and interacted with people for so long, naturally saw it very clearly. Isn't that Tongshan Gong? You usually arrive late during the imperial court. You're so early today. Tongshan Gong, coming from a small world, probably hasn't even seen a celestial lotus in his lifetime. However, given Tongshan Gong's status, I think the Holy Emperor will bestow one upon him this time. Furthermore, in the entire Tongshan world, Tongshan Gong is likely the first person to be able to eat a celestial lotus. This kind of good fortune is hard for ordinary people to obtain. He should be careful when savoring it. He had to chew slowly and savor it for a while. Hearing the laughter of the nobles around him, Bai Xiaochun quickly coughed, pretending not to hear the sarcasm. He looked at everyone and laughed heartily, not only not leaving, but even finding a seat at the head of the table and sitting down with everyone. Speaking of which, it's quite nostalgic. Back when I was in the Tongshan world, every day upon waking up, I would bite into a 100,000-year-old snow lotus seed, then spit it out, only savoring its fragrance. This fragrance lingered for a day, unforgettable. I thought I wouldn't have the chance, but I didn't expect you all here to have immortal lotus seeds. Bai Xiaochun coughed lightly, his eyes not blinking, and said dramatically, "Unfortunately, there are no spirit-tailed chickens here. In our place, we have a type of immortal bird formed by the laws of heaven and earth, called the spirit-tailed chicken that can destroy heaven and earth. We use snow lotus seeds of 10,000 years or more along with this spirit-tailed chicken to make braised meat, and then sprinkle it with immortal peppercorns of 500,000 years or more. The taste is unforgettable, even after just one bite. What a pity, even with my status, I could only eat a few thousand of them." Bai Xiaochun sighed, his eyes revealing a nostalgic and regretful expression. Everyone fell silent. Each person looked at Bai Xiaochun, their expressions betraying a strange mix of emotions. Boasting was commonplace, nothing unusual. But to do it like Bai Xiaochun, boasting so shamelessly in front of everyone and yet maintaining such a convincing expression, it left everyone in awe. They recalled how Bai Xiaochun had boasted shamelessly in front of the Holy Emperor, regretting the evil emperor's good fortune in not being captured. Chen Su quickly cleared his throat, subtly shifting the conversation to Gu Tianjun about cultivation. The others' gazes shifted from Bai Xiaochun to laughter, discussing other matters and avoiding the lotus seeds. They didn't give Bai Xiaoqun another chance to boast. Bai Xiaoqun's boasting sent shivers down their spines. The snow lotus is 100,000 years old. This snow lotus is so lucky. It hasn't been picked by anyone for 100,000 years. The spirit-tailed chicken that destroys heaven and earth. Damn it, bragging is fine. But can't he brag a little more seriously? Even the names are a bit extravagant, but he's so blatant. According to his way of speaking, if they had a heavenly dragonfish, its name would definitely be Heavenly Dragonfish, invincible in the starry sky, supreme immortal realm. Unparalleled in heaven and earth, the most exaggerated is the 500,000-year-old immortal bird. Damn it, I've never heard of such a thing being 500,000 years old. Everyone grumbled inwardly. They no longer paid attention to Bai Xiaoqun. Bai Xiaoqun, feeling smug and arrogant, swept his gaze across everyone, secretly snorting. He thought to himself, if it came to bragging, he might not have done it before. But with a little brainpower, he could easily brag to the eternal continent. Before long, many cultivators from the Holy Emperor City arrived one after another. Even the great venerable sea god, who had been fishing for over 100 years, enthusiastically made his way to the imperial palace. After seeing Bai Xiaoqun, he probably looked down on him inwardly. But outwardly, they still wore smiles. There were even a few individuals who had received Bai Xiaoqun's heavenly dragonfish before, who came forward to chat a few words. But deep down, they still despised him. The thought that he must have ulterior motives was clearly evident in their smiles. However, Bai Xiaoqun had become accustomed to this during his few days in the Holy Emperor City. If one day they weren't so xenophobic, Bai Xiaoqun might not be able to adapt. After becoming familiar with the words and methods of these people, a smile appeared on Bai Xiaoqun's face as he responded to each of them. He seized the opportunity to chat with those who came to offer empty pleasantries, readily boasting. Before long, the imperial palace square was almost full. A bell rang, and everyone fell silent. The Holy Emperor emerged from the main hall, a warm smile on his face. Upon his appearance, everyone rose to pay their respects. Everyone, please sit down. Today is the Lotus Feast. I will be enjoying the immortal lotus with you all, the Holy Emperor said with a smile, gently taking his seat at the head of the table. His gaze then swept over Bai Xiaoqun, his smile still present, even nodding. Everyone thanked him and then sat down. Bai Xiaoqun followed suit, and after sitting down, he gazed intently at the Holy Emperor. He was very much looking forward to savoring the lotus seeds next. Without keeping everyone waiting, seeing everyone seated, the Holy Emperor smiled and raised his right hand, waving it vigorously in all directions. Instantly, the heavens and earth were filled with swirling winds and clouds, and a hand materialized in the sky. This hand radiated a sharp, divine aura, and an oppressive power that terrified Bai Xiaoqun was spreading outwards. In everyone's eyes, this hand suddenly descended, hurtling straight towards the heavenly pond. The hand directly swept over the lotus platforms exposed on the water's surface. Immediately, these lotus platforms bloomed, and golden lotus seeds flew out from within. As for the lotus platforms, the seeds were extracted without much damage. As the seeds disappeared, they slowly sank back into the heavenly pond. These lotus seeds were as large as a fist or as small as a peach pit, and there weren't many of them, only a little over 10, which were caught by the large hand. When they reappeared, they were already before the Holy Emperor. More than 10 lotus seeds emitted a golden light. Simultaneously, a strong, fragrant aroma spread in all directions, creating a hazy mist all around. From afar, the imperial palace seemed to have transformed into a celestial realm. This fragrance filled everyone's nostrils, filling them with joy. Bai Xiaoqun even took a few deep breaths. He felt his cultivation level increase much faster than usual. Chen Su Heavenly Venerate, Gu Heavenly Venerate, Zhou Heavenly Venerate. The 3 Heavenly Venerates protect my Holy Emperor dynasty. Without you, there would be no Holy Emperor dynasty. I once said that I would share the world with everyone. The immortal lotus is the same. The Holy Emperor's laughter rang out. Gu Heavenly Venerate and Zhou Heavenly Venerate stood up and bowed. At the same time, more than half of the lotus seeds suddenly rushed towards the 3 of them. The heavenly kings guarding the court have all contributed to helping. I have sworn an oath, and I am willing to share the world with you all, so of course you deserve rewards. The Holy Emperor waved his hand again. A portion of the immortal lotus seeds flew towards the 7 or 8 people surrounding him. After each person caught a lotus seed, they all stood up and bowed. At this point, the number of lotus seeds that had initially floated before the Holy Emperor was down to only 5. Most of them were slightly small. The smallest seemed to be only a little more than half a peach pit. Clearly, they were somewhat immature. Bai Xiaochun watched as those lotus seeds suddenly dwindled so much, and he hadn't received any for himself twice in a row. He felt a little anxious and envious. He raised his head and puffed out his chest, trying to attract the Holy Emperor's attention. I am also a duke. Just as Bai Xiaochun was considering how to subtly remind the Holy Emperor's eyes flashed. He looked at Bai Xiaochun for a moment, then hesitated for a while before raising his right hand. My lords and dukes in the Holy Emperor dynasty have rendered great service, and of course they deserve rewards. Suddenly, 5 lotus seeds flew out from before the Holy Emperor, hurtling towards the 5 people surrounding him. Among them was Bai Xiaochun. Seeing the lotus seeds flying towards him, he felt a surge of excitement. However, when he grasped one of them, his brows furrowed. Whether it was a coincidence or not, the lotus seed he caught was the smallest one, seemingly unripe. In truth, the Holy Emperor had absolutely no good feelings towards Bai Xiaochun when he thought of the heavenly dragonfish. But Bai Xiaochun's status was undeniable. To remind the cultivators of the Tongshan world of their homeland, even though the Holy Emperor was unwilling, he still smiled and bestowed a lotus seed upon him. The first 49 lotus seeds have been distributed. Those of you who haven't received a lotus seed yet shouldn't be impatient. Everyone who has rendered meritorious service to the Holy Emperor dynasty will be rewarded. The Holy Emperor smiled. He didn't need to stay until the end of the lotus feast. At this point, he reluctantly said a few words, then stood up and left. After the Holy Emperor left, the banquet quickly became lively again. Anyone who received a lotus seed was surrounded by many cultivators offering congratulations, their laughter echoing loudly. Several people also gathered around Bai Xiaochun. They saw that Bai Xiaochun had received the smallest lotus seed, and although they mocked him inwardly, they didn't show it, still offering congratulations. Bai Xiaochun felt a little annoyed, but there was nothing he could do. After exchanging a few perfunctory words with everyone, he noticed that some people had already eaten lotus seeds, so he also lowered his head and looked at the lotus seed in his hand. After confirming there was nothing to worry about, he simply threw it directly into his mouth. As soon as the lotus seed entered his mouth, it transformed into a fragrant aroma that instantly spread throughout his body. Very quickly, Bai Xiaochun felt a flame erupting within him. After the flame spread throughout his body, reaching all his meridians, the entire process, though only lasting for about 10 breaths, completely dissipated. However, Bai Xiaochun clearly felt that his cultivation level, within those 10 breaths, had erupted like a volcano, directly increasing by a significant amount. Although he hadn't yet reached the late stage of the demigod realm, this level of progress far surpassed that of the heavenly dragonfish. So powerful, Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, his eyes filled with astonishment. Although he had previously anticipated the lotus seed's effects would exceed expectations, he hadn't imagined that it would only take a little over 10 breaths to absorb. This lotus seed was completely pure and perfectly suited to the cultivator. If it were considered a medicinal pill, it would truly be a top-grade pill with absolutely no toxicity. 10 more lotus seeds. I don't need that many, just 5 more, and I can break through to the late demigod stage. Bai Xiaochun's heart burned with anticipation. The medicinal effects of these lotus seeds made his heart pound. He was preoccupied with thoughts of how to obtain more lotus seeds. Even after the banquet ended and he returned home, Bai Xiaochun sat there agonizingly pondering. The Holy Emperor can't possibly give me any more. But there are so many lotus seeds in this heavenly pond. If any are taken, it will cause a huge uproar, unless I can find a way to take them away secretly. Bai Xiaochun tapped his forehead, his heart filled with anxiety. He stared intently at the many lotus seeds in the heavenly pond. Even though they weren't ripe, they were still lotus seeds. But time and again, he could only look, not eat. I don't believe I can eat thousands of them. These lotus seeds, could they really pose a challenge to me? Bai Xiaochun scratched his head in frustration. He was practically insanely determined to eat these lotus seeds. He'd spent the whole night racking his brains and had come up with a few solutions. But after careful consideration, he still felt something wasn't right. So, the next day, Bai Xiaochun wasn't in the mood to participate in the lotus feast. He walked along the edge of the lotus leaves, looking at the water of the heavenly pond and the lotus blossoms that hadn't yet emerged from the water, vaguely visible. Bai Xiaochun felt uneasy. This holy emperor dynasty is too old-fashioned. Leaving the dragonfish and lotus seeds inside the heavenly pond. But I can see them, but I can't eat them. Blood vessels began to appear in Bai Xiaochun's eyes. If it weren't for the fact that he felt he couldn't defeat these three heavenly venerables, nor the holy emperor, he would probably have wanted to dive headfirst into the water, reaching the bottom, frantically collecting lotus seeds. As time passed, his desire grew stronger. Since the collapse of the Tongshan world and his entry into the Eternal Continent, Bai Xiaochun had long realized that only by becoming stronger would he have the right to accomplish what he believed he needed to do. However, on this unfamiliar Eternal Continent, the rapid increase in cultivation required too much energy. If Bai Xiaochun had enough time, it would be fine. But today, Bai Xiaochun's foundation was too shallow, making it difficult to achieve. While he pondered this, several days passed. The lotus feast continued uninterrupted. Bai Xiaochun devoted all his energy to the lotus seeds. Every day he would walk back and forth around these lotus leaves, his thoughts racing to their limit. Many people noticed his actions. However, the lotus feast continued as usual. Everyone's attention was focused on the banquet. On the other hand, these lotus seeds were unlike dragonfish. Bai Xiaochun's attempt to quietly take them was simply impossible. Moreover, the holy emperor wasn't in seclusion. He appeared at the lotus feast every day. All of this meant that even though the powerful cultivators of the holy emperor dynasty saw through Bai Xiaochun's intentions, they didn't pay much attention. Our holy emperor dynasty always adheres to rules, not status. Lotus seeds are like immortal pills. You can only look, not take, once you reach out. You'll be breaking the rules. Everyone in the holy emperor dynasty secretly sneered. They knew how much the holy emperor valued Bai Xiaochun. The main point was his exploitable value. But even greater value, once it offended the holy emperor dynasty's bottom line, would be useless. That time with the heavenly dragonfish, although Bai Xiaochun might have survived, and although it was related to the holy emperor's desire to exploit Bai Xiaochun, the biggest factor was that Bai Xiaochun didn't reveal any obvious weaknesses. That's why the holy emperor could tolerate it and endure it. But this lotus seed wasn't a living thing. It wouldn't automatically fly into Bai Xiaochun's hands. If it happened in front of Bai Xiaochun, there seemed to be only one way, to steal the lotus seed. And once he did that, he would be doomed forever. Based on these things, the entire court, both civil and military officials, while not completely indifferent, still felt somewhat reassured. Only Liu Jianhu, after noticing Bai Xiaochun's unusual behavior for several days, immediately became vigilant, exerting all his strength to constantly observe him. He even felt a little excited. After being appointed as the supervising commissioner, he made monitoring Bai Xiaochun his primary duty. However, he waited for months, and Bai Xiaochun remained obedient. This made Liu Jianhu impatient. Bai Xiaochun, no matter how cunning you are, you cannot escape my discerning eyes. Liu Jianhu took a deep breath. He monitored Bai Xiaochun even more closely. Although he couldn't investigate Bai Xiaochun's blessed land, as soon as Bai Xiaochun left his residence, he would certainly do everything in his power to secretly follow him. Time passed quickly. 3 days went by in a flash. While the lotus banquet was underway, amidst the arrogance of the entire court's civil and military officials, and under the watchful eye of Liu Jianhu, Bai Xiaochun observed the lotus seeds for a long time, finally arriving at a conclusion. It wasn't perfect, but it was the most feasible plan. Only this method can work. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath. He stopped observing the lotus platforms in the lake and turned to head straight to his blessed land. For the past few days, he had noticed Liu Jianhu following him, but hadn't had the time to pay attention to him. Now, upon returning to his blessed land, he immediately performed a hand seal, sealing off the surrounding area. After ensuring there were no serious problems, he sat cross-legged in meditation, remaining motionless. Outside the blessed land, Liu Jianhu also found a place to sit down. His eyes didn't blink, staring intently at Bai Xiaochun's cave dwelling. His eyes had been aching for the past few days. He had truly been watching for too long. But his spirit felt no fatigue at all. He had a strong premonition that Bai Xiaochun would carry out his scheme. If I capture him this time, I will have made a great contribution. Thinking this, Liu Tianhu's spirits soared, and he made a firm resolution. He had to do everything in his power, not giving Bai Xiaochun any opportunity to harm the lotus seed. No matter what your plan is, the goal is the lotus seed. As long as I'm watching you, you can't even dream of hiding from my eyes. Amidst Liu Tianhu's excitement, Bai Xiaochun sat cross-legged in meditation, remaining motionless for hours. As night fell, he appeared normal, but his consciousness instantly penetrated his storage bag. Little black turtle, come out. Bai Xiaochun's divine sense echoed within the storage bag. Seeing that the little black turtle didn't respond, he snorted coldly. Even if the Tongshan world shattered, Bai Xiaochun believed this little black turtle was still inside his storage bag. Even if the world ceased to exist, this guy surely wouldn't be affected. Stop pretending, come out. Bai Xiaochun was getting impatient. After his consciousness swept through the storage bag, he spoke again. Not coming out, fine. Then let's settle all the past accounts once and for all. Bai Xiaochun snorted, threatening it repeatedly, but there was still no response from inside the storage bag. Could it really not be here? Bai Xiaochun was extremely surprised, shaking his head and sighing. What a pity, this treasure isn't destined for it. As Bai Xiaochun said this, he didn't know if the word treasure was too alluring, but suddenly a wave of energy emanated from his storage bag. Treasure? What treasure? Following the wave, the voice of the little black turtle echoed in Bai Xiaochun's head. At first, it was somewhat hazy, like waking from a deep sleep. But very quickly, before Bai Xiaochun could speak, the little black turtle's voice became excited. Xiaochunzi, quickly tell Master Turtle, what treasure did you find? In an instant, the little black turtle's head poked out from the storage bag. Without waiting for Bai Xiaochun to speak, it sniffed around. In a flash, its eyes lit up. Aha, Master Turtle can smell the treasure. Damn it, I lost too much blood last time. My sensitivity to treasures has decreased so much. The little black turtle's eyes stared intently, as if it was extremely excited. Its body trembled, and just as it was about to rush out, Bai Xiaochun pressed it down and stuffed it into the storage bag. Speak softly. There are people watching here. Bai Xiaochun quickly transmitted his divine sense. The little black turtle glared, a hint of killing intent vaguely appearing. Who is watching the great Master Turtle? Do they want to steal the treasure from Master Turtle? That's right. There's a guy named Liu Yang who's waiting outside. This guy wants to steal the treasure from us. Bai Xiaochun quickly coughed and spoke. He dares. Master Turtle will kill him. The little black turtle immediately disregarded everything else. In its life, it hated nothing more than someone trying to steal treasure from it. Let's not talk about this for now. Little black turtle, can you sense it? In the heavenly pond, surrounding this place, there are countless lotus platforms. Inside are countless lotus seeds. Each lotus seed is comparable to an immortal elixir. Bai Xiaochun hastily transmitted his divine sense. You quietly go and take some back. I'll cover for you. We'll split it 30/70ths. I get 70, you get 30. After all, I'm the one who discovered it. I still have to help you cover for it. This was Bai Xiaochun's plan. Lotus seeds are not like dragonfish, which are living things with full vitality. To harvest them, the only way is to pluck them. But Bai Xiaochun's identity is special, and he's the most suspicious. He can't act rashly. But if it were the little black turtle that came and went without a trace, everything would be perfect. The only problem was dividing the spoils with the little black turtle. The two of them haggled for a while, finally settling on a 50/50th split. Then the little black turtle, its spirits lifted, vanished into the storage bag and left the blessed land. No matter how closely the Marquis Liu Tia observed, he didn't notice a small turtle suddenly darting past him. After leaving, the little black turtle proudly turned its head and glanced at the Marquis Liu Tia hiding there. Only then did it dive into the water, into the celestial pond. Very quickly, it spotted the base of a lotus pod at the bottom. After sniffing it a bit, the little black turtle gnashed its teeth and directly bit off a piece. After chewing it in its mouth, its eyes immediately lit up. Little Chunzi really didn't lie to me. This is crisp and delicious. The little black turtle licked its lips and in just a few bites, it ate the entire lotus pod. However, thinking that eating it like that would be too obvious, it began to only dig out the lotus seeds, not eating the whole pod. After a long while, when it returned to the blessed land in a smug and boastful manner, it shook its head in front of Bai Xiaochun and directly threw out 7 or 8 lotus seeds. "Eat tea," he little black turtle said, even burping itself. Obviously, this trip outside was the first time it had eaten its fill. Even though the lotus seeds were only the size of a fingertip, extremely immature, the moment Bai Xiaochun saw them, his eyes lit up. He picked them up, washed them clean, and then threw them into his mouth. Although their medicinal effect was far inferior to the seeds Bai Xiaochun had obtained, after these lotus seeds dissolved in Bai Xiaochun's mouth, a fiery force instantly erupted from his body, spreading throughout his entire being. He didn't speak a word all night. As dawn broke, Liu Tian, who guarded outside Bai Xiaochun's blessed land, not resting at all. Although his eyes weren't blinking even once, he tried his best to stay alert. For him, these past few days, despite the unbearable fatigue, had left him with an abundance of energy. Especially now, after dawn, as Bai Xiaochun swaggered out of the blessed land, Liu Tian, whose spirits were instantly lifted. However, upon closer observation, he noticed something was amiss with Bai Xiaochun. "Is that right?" Liu Tian, who was startled. The Bai Xiaochun before him was even more radiant than before, and he was humming softly. Most importantly, he wasn't continuing towards the edge of the lotus leaf, but instead heading straight for the imperial palace. Something's wrong. While Liu Tian, who was on alert, Bai Xiaochun, still humming softly and in a joyful mood, had already arrived at the imperial palace. The lotus banquet was still ongoing. Although the nobles of the court didn't attend every day, it was still lively. Their laughter regarding Bai Xiaochun's arrival carried a hint of mockery. Bai Xiaochun pretended not to understand, sitting to one side amidst the laughter, contentedly drinking fine wine and eating immortal fruits. Even the holy emperor wouldn't appear every day. It was only at the beginning of the banquet that his primordial power emanated from the imperial palace, plucking a portion of lotus seeds as a reward. Very quickly, a day passed. As Bai Xiaochun left in a good mood, the Marquis Liu Tian, who had followed him all day, began to sense something was amiss. But the more he thought about it, the more he couldn't find the problem. He could only grit his teeth and continue to stand guard outside Bai Xiaochun's blessed land, watching intently. It's all a pretense. All of this must be Bai Xiaochun faking it. He's trying to make everyone lower their guard. And so, time passed. 5 days went by quickly. The lotus banquet was nearing its end. Bai Xiaochun felt somewhat relieved. During the day, he would go to the imperial palace very early. That evening, after returning, the little black turtle brought lotus seeds again, and the two shared them. Although the lotus seeds the little turtle brought were all too small, the quantity was overwhelming. In these past few days, the number of lotus seeds distributed to Bai Xiaochun had already exceeded 1,000. Even if the medicinal effect was weaker with such a quantity, it still caused Bai Xiaochun's cultivation to finally break through from the late half-god stage to the great perfection realm. The moment he broke through, Bai Xiaochun immediately suppressed his aura. He was extremely excited. He knew he was one step closer to becoming a heavenly venerate, and if things continued like this, he was confident that within a few years, his cultivation would completely break through, condense the Tao seed, and enter the heavenly venerate realm. Compared to Bai Xiaochun, the little black turtle's harvest was enormous, something Bai Xiaochun couldn't quite guess. Looking at the little black turtle's rosy complexion, even its shell was shiny and gleaming. Bai Xiaochun could imagine that, given the little black turtle's cunning, it willingly gave him over 1,000 lotus seeds. This meant that every time this fellow went out into the heavenly pond, the number of lotus seeds it secretly ate was probably no less than several thousand. This made Bai Xiaochun feel a little conflicted. He wasn't feeling sorry for the holy emperor. If this continued, Bai Xiaochun worried that the matter would be exposed. Be careful. Don't eat so many. Only eat them when things improve. Bai Xiaochun repeatedly warned the little black turtle. Fortunately, the little black turtle wasn't too foolish, agreeing each time. But Bai Xiaochun was still uneasy. But releasing this little black turtle is easy. Getting it back, that's incredibly difficult, especially since the Lotus Feast is almost over and the little black turtle might not have returned yet. This immediately put Bai Xiaochun on alert. Could the little black turtle have been captured? Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure. He felt that if the little black turtle had been captured, given its temperament, it wouldn't be able to keep its mouth shut. The Holy Emperor hadn't even sought him out. This surprised Bai Xiaochun. He waited for several days, and as the Lotus Banquet was nearing its end, the little black turtle still hadn't returned, intensifying his worrying and unease. Meanwhile, outside his blessed land, the Marquis Liu Tianhu's anxiety seemed to have reached its limit. Amidst their anxiety, the Lotus Feast finally concluded. Following the resounding bells of the Imperial Palace, the Lotus Feast, just as it had begun, concluded with all the civil and military officials of the entire court gathering. They were in the Imperial Square, waiting to witness the final number of lotus seeds bestowed by the Holy Emperor. Afterward, everyone would offer their thanks. After this, the Lotus Feast could finally end. At this moment, Bai Xiaochun and the other dignitaries of the court stood in the square. Compared to the calmness of the others, Bai Xiaochun's heart was in turmoil. He constantly observed the expressions of everyone around him, but found no clues. In Bai Xiaochun's nervousness, a figure slowly emerged from the Holy Emperor's palace. After standing at the highest point, his gaze swept over the people below, and a warm smile slowly appeared on his face. My esteemed ministers, this time the lotus bloomed, yielding 800 lotus seeds. These last 200 seeds are for all cultivators in the world to have a chance to obtain, and today I will also take them down. I hope that our Holy Emperor dynasty can be like these lotus seeds, gradually giving rise to lotuses, and eternally enduring. Following the Holy Emperor's resounding voice, the nobles throughout the court below bowed to the Holy Emperor. May our Holy Emperor dynasty endure eternally. The unified voice echoed in all directions. Bai Xiaochun, amidst the crowd, suppressed his unease and also clasped his hands in greeting. In this court of worship, the Holy Emperor's smiling countenance became even more gentle. He casually raised his right hand. His primordial cultivation suddenly radiated outwards. A divine and awe-inspiring aura emanated. A giant hand materialized in the high heavens. In the celestial pool, the water rippled. A lotus platform rose from the water. Simultaneously, this hand descended, grasping towards the lotus plants. Normally, the Holy Emperor would grab the lotus seeds with a single grab, and the lotus platform would bloom on its own, the seeds flying out. But today, in the blink of an eye, as the Holy Emperor's giant hand reached out, the lotus plants parted the water and shook. Although they bloomed, no seeds flew out after the lotus flowers opened. Instead, after those lotus flowers bloomed, holes appeared. The giant hand stopped. The Holy Emperor was slightly startled. At this moment, many of the nobles in the court on the square spread out their divine senses. After seeing this scene, each of them suddenly widened their eyes. Chen Su, Gu Chuanjun, and the middle-aged scholar were all stunned. Very quickly, others also felt something was wrong. They all spread out their divine senses. When they saw the holes in these lotus platforms, they were all dumbfounded. Bai Xiaochun's heart suddenly pounded. His divine sense also spread out. After seeing the lotus flower bloom without seeds, only holes at the base of the lotus pod, he felt uneasy and quickly feigned ignorance. The entire imperial palace fell silent. A moment later, the Holy Emperor's expression turned grim, and he waved his large hand. Immediately, many lotus pods emerged from the water in the celestial pond, then all bloomed. But still, not a single seed appeared. Only black holes remained on the pods. This scene caused the nobles throughout the court to gasp in astonishment. Uncontrollable exclamations of surprise erupted. This where are the lotus seeds? How is this possible? How can there be no lotus seeds? Amidst the astonished cries, Bai Xiaochun's voice, exaggerated beyond that of ordinary people, also rose high, shouting, "My God, how could this be? Could it be that those heavenly dragonfish ate them?" Amidst the unimaginable clamor of the crowd, the Holy Emperor's expression was extremely grim. He suddenly raised his right hand. This time, he wasn't controlling the giant hand in the sky, but acting personally. He gestured towards the celestial pool. Instantly, the divine power within his body surged and erupted. The heavens and earth changed color in an instant. In the swirling wind and clouds, all the lotus platforms in the celestial pool simultaneously parted the water's surface. Whether ripe or unripe, large or small, they all bloomed at the same time. Their number was immense, perhaps more than 10,000. Their simultaneous appearance shook the hearts of all who witnessed it. What shocked them even more was that, out of the more than 10,000 lotus platforms that appeared, more than half had lost their lotus seeds. These black holes were shocking to behold. If that were all, it wouldn't be so bad. Almost instantly, not only the Holy Emperor and the three people including Chen Su, but even the half-god and even celestial beings in the imperial court immediately noticed. On one of the blooming lotus platforms, there was a small turtle eating a lotus seed about half the size of a fist. Clearly, this sudden sight rising from the water had terrified it. Half a lotus seed fell from its mouth. After seeing this small black turtle, Bai Xiaochun's eyes widened and his heart pounded. He had thought the little black turtle had only stolen a few thousand seeds, but he never imagined this guy could steal so many. At the same time, furious roars that shook the heavens erupted from all sides. Damn it! What kind of turtle is this that dares to steal the immortal lotus of our holy imperial dynasty? So many lotus pods are empty. Almost 7/10. It ate at least 10,000 lotus seeds. Damn it, I have to stew it. As everyone present was enraged, the Holy Emperor's expression also turned extremely grim. He suddenly raised his right hand. Despite the little black turtle's incredible speed, even though it moved silently and stealthily, it couldn't escape after the Holy Emperor's intervention. The little black turtle's figure almost instantly moved. In a flash, the surrounding void seemed to be sealed, freezing solid. No matter how much it struggled, it was all in vain. Immediately, it was pulled back by a powerful force, transforming into a rainbow and hurtling towards the imperial palace. The moment it reappeared, it was suddenly caught in the Holy Emperor's hand. This time, the little black turtle seemed genuinely startled. Seeing itself being captured by the person in front of it, a person it found terrifying, it let out a mournful, pathetic cry. I was forced. It was Bai Xiaochun who told me to do it. He's the mastermind behind this disaster. You don't know, this guy is a disaster. He forced me to steal the lotus seeds. I'm innocent, I'm a victim. The little black turtle's foreclaws thrashed about incessantly, its cries extremely piercing, echoing in all directions, reverberating in the ears of every cultivator from the Holy Emperor city present in the square. They were already seething with anger, but upon hearing the little black turtle's words, they all turned their gazes towards Bai Xiaochun. In an instant, every eye fell upon Bai Xiaochun. Bai Xiaochun's body trembled, his breathing became rapid, and sweat beaded on his forehead. Although he knew this little black turtle was the most destructive and had no way of keeping its mouth shut, he didn't expect that this fellow would completely lack any patience and directly sell himself out. Especially after thinking about how this little black turtle had stolen over 10,000 lotus seeds all by itself, only giving him 1,000. Curses surged through Bai Xiaochun's heart like a raging wave. But his reaction was incredibly quick. His expression instantly transformed into astonishment, as if he had just realized it. He suddenly jumped up, pointing at the little black turtle. Who are you? How do you know my name? Holy Emperor, this is a conspiracy. Someone wants to harm me. Bai Xiaochun's face showed anger, as if he had suffered a great injustice. His voice became furious, but the powerful cultivators surrounding him couldn't possibly fail to see through it. If it weren't for the previous incident with the heavenly dragonfish, they might have hesitated. But with the heavenly dragonfish incident, they immediately concluded that this little black turtle was clearly Bai Xiaochun's accomplice. Regardless of whether the little black turtle pointed the finger at Bai Xiaochun, or Bai Xiaochun pointed the finger at the little black turtle, this man and turtle were indeed thieves stealing lotus seeds. Now it can be said that both the person and the evidence have been obtained, especially since these 200 lotus seeds were originally harvested by the Holy Emperor, intended to be distributed throughout the world and auctioned off to all the cultivators of the Holy Emperor dynasty. This was a huge business deal. The Holy Emperor didn't participate directly, but the powerful figures here, while not all having vested interests, would certainly participate. Each time lotus seeds were auctioned, there was always ample room for maneuver. For them, this was a massive windfall. But today, Obviously, that's no longer the case. The Holy Emperor wouldn't allow further harvesting when 7/10 of the Lotus platforms are already empty. It's even conceivable that the current Lotus platforms have suffered significant damage to their vital energy. It's likely that in the near future, there won't be another Lotus feast. Thinking of this, even the three of them, including Gu Chongjun, were enraged. This truly involved too many of their own interests. Although they were heavenly venerables, they had clansmen and subordinates. They consumed enormous resources every year. Now, suddenly lacking a large sum, how could they not be angry? By Xiaochun, you dare to cause trouble and steal the immortal lotus. Holy Emperor, I beg you, execute this Bai Xiaochun. Your Majesty, I agree. This Bai Xiaochun must be punished. Like stirring up a hornet's nest, almost all the powerful cultivators in the Imperial Palace Square were filled with murderous intent. If this weren't the Imperial Palace, they would have directly attacked. At this moment, each person stepped forward and spoke, their voices icy cold, their killing intent overwhelming. Bai Xiaochun took deep breaths repeatedly, sweat pouring down his forehead. Sensing the murderous intent emanating from all sides, his heart and liver trembled wildly, and his scalp tingled. He wanted to reason with them, but suddenly noticed the little black turtle held in the Holy Emperor's hand, finally glaring at him. Then, the little black turtle let out a shrill, ear-piercing cry. Gentlemen, it was Bai Xiaochun who ordered me to do this. He is my master, I cannot disobey his orders. Bai Xiaochun glared at the little black turtle, seemingly furious. But in reality, he was filled with doubt. The little black turtle's blinking motion earlier seemed normal, but having been with it for so many years, Bai Xiaochun immediately noticed something amiss. Recalling how the little black turtle had called him by his name earlier, Bai Xiaochun instantly sensed that something was wrong. At this moment, the square was a scene of chaos. Monks were petitioning, the little black turtle was roaring angrily, and Bai Xiaochun was shouting loudly. All these voices intertwined, spreading outwards. Holy Emperor, this Bai Xiaochun must die? He has committed such a grave crime. It's truly horrifying. And this giant ghost, I suspect he is also an accomplice. He must also be executed. Just then, Gu Tuanjun suddenly spoke, his voice icy cold. When he looked at Bai Xiaochun, the killing intent in his eyes was particularly evident. While everyone in the crowd roared with anger, Yu Tianhu, amidst the throng, took a deep breath. A sharp glint appeared in his eyes. He had been observing Bai Xiaochun for a long time, yet hadn't discovered any trickery. Even if he noticed something amiss, he had no clue and was worried sick. But now, after seeing the little black turtle, he suddenly understood everything. Moreover, seeing Bai Xiaochun being attacked by everyone, Liu Tianhu was instantly agitated. What a familiar scene! Liu Tianhu's body trembled with uncontrollable excitement. Heaven has eyes. Today, in this place, the scene from that year has finally reappeared. Bai Xiaochun, this time I will absolutely not lose. Thinking of this, Liu Tianhu looked up at the sky and laughed maniacally. He lifted his foot and took a long stride forward. At this moment, an astonishing aura seemed to surge from him. He directly walked to the center of the square. He looked towards the Holy Emperor, who at this moment seemed to ignore everyone, staring intently at the small black turtle in his hand, seemingly deep in thought, then clasped his hands and bowed deeply. Your Majesty, this humble servant has compiled 500 grave crimes of Bai Xiaochun, and today I wish to proclaim his heinous crimes here. The first crime of this person. At this moment, Liu Tianhu felt as if he had merged with heaven and earth, his whole body surging with immense energy, his voice resonating with power. His aura had reached its limit, and his words were delivered instantly. Suddenly, before he could finish his first sentence, the Holy Emperor, seated high above, holding the small black turtle, seemed to be deep in thought. His eyes then flashed with a sharp, bright gleam. Finally, he burst into ecstatic laughter, his laughter like a resounding bell, echoing throughout the entire Holy Emperor city, shaking the heavens and earth, directly cutting short Liu Tianhu's intended words. Simultaneously, it suppressed the anger of all the powerful cultivators of the Holy Emperor city surrounding him. Good, good, good. The Holy Emperor's laughter grew louder and louder, his joy particularly evident. When he looked at the small black turtle in his hand, his whole body seemed to be stirred. It's worth noting that, as an ancient being, such a clear fluctuation of emotion was unusual. This scene instantly terrified everyone. Others were fine, but at this moment, the eyes of Chensu and the other two flashed. They suddenly looked at the small black turtle in the Holy Emperor's hand. Gradually, fear and disbelief appeared in their eyes. The eternal turtle, the eternal turtle. In the Holy Emperor's laughter, his voice trembled with excitement. This is the eternal turtle, a unique creature in heaven and earth, a spiritual symbiote with the legendary eternal flower. Its appearance in our Holy Emperor City is an auspicious sign. This clearly shows that our Holy Emperor City is the legitimate eternal continent, destined for eternity. Hearing the Holy Emperor's laughter, Bai Xiaochun was somewhat dumbfounded. Initially, the tomb guardian had poured the fresh blood of the little black turtle into Bai Xiaochun, causing him to fall into a weakened coma and unaware of the details. Now, after hearing this, he immediately understood the reason why the little black turtle blinked earlier. The Holy Emperor's laughter grew louder and louder. Finally, he waved his sleeve, took the little black turtle, and turned to return to the imperial palace. Before leaving, he directly issued a decree. I hereby confer the title of Eternal Turtle, making it the Holy Turtle of the Holy Emperor Dynasty, to share the destiny of our nation. Wherever it goes, it will be as if I, the Emperor, am personally there. Bai Xiaochun, for his meritorious contribution to the turtle, will be rewarded with a 7-colored sash and 10 immortal pills. As soon as these words were spoken, the powerful cultivators all around gasped in awe. Looking at the small black turtle in the Holy Emperor's hand, everyone's hearts were stirred. No one could have predicted that this little black turtle, which had stolen lotus seeds, would be bestowed the title of Holy Turtle of the Holy Emperor Dynasty. This was unimaginable. At the same time, it naturally resolved the previous lotus seed incident, especially the Holy Emperor's bestowal of the title upon Bai Xiaochun before his departure, which directly erased the lotus seed theft. Time and again, everyone was speechless. Now, seeing the Holy Emperor leave with joy, they were all in the square feeling dejected. When they looked at Bai Xiaochun, they no longer concealed their feelings as before. Each person gritted their teeth. After all, this time the loss wasn't the Holy Emperor, but them. Bai Xiaochun also took a deep breath. This reversal was unbelievable to him. Thinking about it now, it must have been the little black turtle's doing. Once it appeared before the Holy Emperor would naturally recognize its identity and therefore treat it completely differently from usual. It was precisely because of this that the little black turtle had the audacity to steal the lotus seeds. The reason it boasted about its relationship with him was clearly to take advantage of the situation. However, there was still a point that Bai Xiaochun was somewhat puzzled about. But this wasn't the time to ponder it. Regardless, the lotus seed crisis had finally been resolved. Bai Xiaochun quickly cleared his throat, glancing at the Holy Emperor City cultivators around him with a hint of annoyance. After glaring, he straightened his back and walked out arrogantly. Behind him, the eyes of those powerful cultivators all gleamed with cold light. But for the most part, it was out of necessity. They had now realized a truth. If, at the beginning, they could have used some means to punish Bai Xiaochun, then now, based on what they had experienced, Bai Xiaochun was no longer the same. Especially now that this little black turtle had become a sacred turtle. This was like adding another layer of value to Bai Xiaochun in addition to his existing world-reaching value. The fear was that within the Holy Emperor City, there were only 1 or 2 people outside who could dare to touch him. Even the Holy Emperor himself would likely be more apprehensive of Bai Xiaochun. This was evident from his previous coronation. And indeed, that was the case. In that instant, upon seeing the empty lotus platforms, the Holy Emperor's first target was Bai Xiaochun. If he hadn't recognized the little black turtle's identity, he would have immediately suppressed Bai Xiaochun. His patience had truly reached its limit. Never before had any cultivator dared to cause such a commotion in the Holy Emperor City. Yet, the little black turtle's background was too significant. Especially since, according to legend, the eternal turtle willingly staying by a cultivator's side could grant them a level of mental power far beyond what ordinary people could comprehend. For the Holy Emperor, this small effect was even greater. It could even be said that it provided a certain degree of impetus to his breakthrough to the primordial realm. Therefore, the Holy Emperor's heart also pounded with unexpected joy. Little Black Turtle's words, though not fully informed, would have differing interpretations from others. But for the Holy Emperor, he clearly understood the true meaning. This was Bai Xiaochun's eternal turtle. And once the eternal turtle accepted a master, it wouldn't change its mind anytime soon. Even killing Bai Xiaochun wouldn't work. It would only make the eternal turtle hostile. The best way to make the eternal turtle willingly stay in Holy Emperor City was to obtain Bai Xiaochun's consent. In the Holy Emperor's eyes, everyone had their own value. Heavenly venerables did, and so did demigods. Previously, Bai Xiaochun, due to his status in the Tongshan world, was, to some extent, not much different from a heavenly venerable. But today, after adding the eternal turtle, Bai Xiaochun's immense value has reached a level that even the Holy Emperor is extremely wary of. Although the nobles of the Holy Emperor City didn't fully understand his thoughts, they could guess about 7 or 8 of them. At this moment, they could only helplessly sigh. This damned fellow, he ate so many heavenly dragonfish and so many lotus seeds, and he's still alive and well. This is a disaster. He ruined the heavenly dragonfish. He almost destroyed the Holy Emperor City. The lotus seeds are almost gone. He conspired with him, and he even became a holy rule. We shouldn't have let him stay in the Holy Emperor City in the first place. Looking at Bai Xiaochun's retreating back, everyone felt wronged. One by one, they left. Very quickly, only one person remained in the entire square, standing there in a daze. This person was the Marquis Liu Tia. At this moment, he was not just upset, but somewhat dazed. Before the overwhelming aura of 500 great sins could be expressed, his words were cut short by the Holy Emperor's laughter. Then a series of events unfolded, leaving him completely dumbfounded. It was the same that year. Liu Tian, whose body trembled, his figure incredibly desolate. Half a month passed quickly. The lotus seed storm within the Holy Emperor City had subsided. But the lack of those lotus seeds meant that no one in the Holy Emperor dynasty could obtain them this time. This had a significant impact, gradually spreading to the 2 major immortal realms of the Holy Emperor dynasty. However, compared to this, the conferment of the sacred rules was the biggest event that shook the entire Holy Emperor dynasty. Even the evil Emperor dynasty was shaken. As for Bai Xiaochun, he rarely found peace during this half-month. He didn't go out once, spending his days sitting cross-legged in meditation. After consuming lotus seeds and immortal pills, his cultivation increased steadily. Although he hadn't yet broken through to become a heavenly venerate, he was certainly getting closer and closer. However, by this time, even the lotus seeds and immortal pills were gradually losing their effectiveness. Bai Xiaochun's cultivation level was stuck at the peak of the Great Perfection realm. It seemed there was an invisible barrier ahead, difficult to break through. Just a little more, Bai Xiaochun felt a little frustrated. He knew the solution: either rely on time, gradually wearing down the barrier and slowly breaking through, or he needed even more powerful immortal artifacts, relentlessly striving until he could break through. Meanwhile, the little black turtle had attracted everyone's attention, experiencing a period of great prosperity in the past half-month. The Holy Emperor naturally wouldn't make things difficult for it, only requiring it to spend 2 hours each day beside him during cultivation. At other times, he didn't restrict the little black turtle's movements. And within the Holy Emperor City, the little black turtle was safe and sound. This meant the little black turtle could have whatever it wanted. Even if it wanted to eat the heavenly dragonfish, no one dared to stop it. As for the lotus seeds, it depended on the mood of the little black turtle. It also went to find Bai Xiaochun. Regarding the previous events, the 2 of them talked freely. Afterwards, Bai Xiaochun understood everything clearly. It was impossible not to feel envious, especially since every time the little black turtle came, its shell shone even brighter. Obviously, it was eating very well. Even more exaggeratedly, the little black turtle had gotten fatter. There's really nothing I can do. Little Chenzi, you don't know. I suffer every day. I've eaten so many immortal pills. I'm getting sick of them. But that old saint emperor keeps wanting to give them to me. And that heavenly venerate named Chen Su, too. Especially Gu Chanjun. It's outrageous. You don't even know it. He actually found me a bunch of female turtles. These female turtles, each one shameless, are lining up to lay eggs for me. It's so troublesome. Little black turtle sighed, looking very helpless. But in his expression, he couldn't hide his smugness and boastfulness. Bai Xiaochun saw it all clearly. Although each time the little turtle came, it would bring Bai Xiaochun quite a few immortal pills. These were not enough to break through the barrier for Bai Xiaochun, whose cultivation had reached the great perfection of the half-god realm. But there aren't many immortal artifacts that can break through barriers, even on the eternal continent. Otherwise, the Holy Emperor dynasty wouldn't have only for heavenly venerables. Looking at the smug expression of the little black turtle, Bai Xiaochun thought for a moment, then glanced around, and suddenly whispered, "Little black turtle, you see, dragonfish can be eaten. Lotus seeds can also be eaten. After eating all those incredibly nutritious things, do you think the lotus roots at the bottom of the heavenly pond can also be eaten?" Lotus roots. The little black turtle's eyes lit up instantly. "That's probably the greatest tonic," Bai Xiaochun said hastily, even licking his lips. "Why don't you go down and bring one back, and we can both try it?" The little black turtle's breathing quickened slightly, thinking that it had only eaten lotus seeds before and hadn't actually eaten lotus roots at the bottom of the heavenly pond, so it was tempted. Seeing this, Bai Xiaochun seized the opportunity to negotiate the division of spoils with the little black turtle. 5 years is not enough. 91. The little black turtle glared, and Bai Xiaochun sighed. "Little black turtle, we've known each other for so many years. From the bloodstream sect all the way to the reverse river sect, the savage wilderness, and even the eternal continent. We've been inseparable, like family. You could say you're my relative. I didn't say anything even when you ate tens of thousands of lotus seeds. Now my cultivation is about to break through. How can you be so heartless? Why do you have to do this?" Bai Xiaochun said, his eyes slightly reddening. He blinked, looking at the little black turtle, a hint of heartache in his gaze. These words, this look the little black turtle had never heard or seen from Bai Xiaochun before. It was startled, its heart filled with emotion and memories. After a long while, the little black turtle let out a sigh. Never mind, it's still 9-1. You get 9, I get 1. Before you break through, I won't secretly eat any more." The little black turtle felt a little sorry for itself. After saying that, its body flashed, and it rushed straight towards the heavenly pond. Seeing the little black turtle leave, Bai Xiaochun's eyes immediately lit up. Initially, when dealing with this little black turtle, I should have used this method. With the little black turtle's speed, plus its status in the Holy Emperor dynasty, even a Holy Emperor, unless they spread their divine consciousness, would find it very difficult to find the little black turtle's whereabouts. At this moment, it wasn't exactly undetectable, but it was almost certainly. While no one was paying attention, the little black turtle had already slipped into the heavenly pond. Its main target was the lotus roots in the heavenly pond. The entire heavenly pond was filled with lotus roots, which served as the roots of the lotus flowers. Its function above is to support the stem and leaves of the lotus, while below it absorbs spiritual energy from the celestial pond, allowing the flowers and leaves to flourish and endure. More than half of it is embedded in the mud at the bottom of the water, while the exposed portion shimmers and flows. The little black turtle didn't need to search. It directly plunged into the muddy water. Before long, it grabbed a large lotus root, several meters long, and darted straight to the surface. Inexplicably, by the time the little black turtle emerged from the water, the several-meter-long lotus root had vanished. It was already dusk. Although there were many people walking around in the Holy Emperor City, no one noticed the little black turtle's figure. Very quickly, the little black turtle returned to Bai Xiaochun's blessed land. The entire process took less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Almost as soon as the little black turtle made a sound and appeared before Bai Xiaochun, who was meditating, he immediately opened his eyes, his gaze filled with anticipation. "Did you succeed?" "Of course, with the turtle's intervention. How could I fail?" The little black turtle was extremely pleased, and with a shake, the several-meter-long lotus root reappeared directly in front of Bai Xiaochun. As soon as the lotus root appeared, a fragrant aroma immediately spread out. Bai Xiaochun took a sniff, and his spirit was instantly invigorated. He immediately sensed that the spiritual energy contained within it was far higher than that of the heavenly dragonfish and lotus seeds. After all, this was the root of a flower. In his excitement, Bai Xiaochun breathed heavily. He suddenly lunged forward to grab it. He swung his right hand, removing the mud from the lotus root, then opened his large mouth and directly gnawed on it. With a crunching sound, he bit off a large chunk. The sweet taste, along with the sticky, delicious texture, made Bai Xiaochun's eyes light up even brighter. Especially, he felt a surge of heat rising from his body after eating this piece. Bai Xiaochun became even more excited. Well, never mind. This time, your turtle family won't steal it from you. Seeing Bai Xiaochun's excited expression, the little black turtle quickly coughed. Earlier, at the bottom of the mud, it had also stolen some. After speaking, its body instantly left Bai Xiaochun's blessed land and burrowed back into the heavenly pond. Seeing the little black turtle's generosity, Bai Xiaochun was somewhat pleased. He quickly ate a few more pieces. Although the lotus root was large, it couldn't withstand the burning heat in Bai Xiaochun's heart at this moment. Before long, he had swallowed all the lotus roots, several meters long. As he swallowed them, the lotus roots quickly dissolved in his body, releasing dense spiritual energy, like countless streams converging to form a great river, then a vast ocean, suddenly erupting within Bai Xiaochun's meridians. Boom! The sounds, inaudible to outsiders, echoed in Bai Xiaochun's mind, as if the inner world within his consciousness was shaking, the winds and clouds swirling in reverse. Waves of spiritual energy surged with explosive force, like ebb and flow of tides. Finally, carrying all of Bai Xiaochun's current peak half-god cultivation, he charged towards the invisible yet palpable barrier, beginning the battle. This lotus root surpasses all the lotus seeds and heavenly dragon fish before. It's now a powerful breakthrough medicine. Bai Xiaochun's face flushed, his eyes revealing intense anticipation. He had long desired to break through to the half-god realm and enter the heavenly venerate stage. Now, after taking one step at a time, he finally saw hope. In this exhilarating state, Bai Xiaochun closed his eyes, circulating his cultivation within his body, immersing his divine consciousness in it, pushing the tide of spiritual energy up and down, making each collision more violent and powerful than the last. The rumbling sounds, like thunder exploding in his mind, continuously spread outwards. His body trembled. Around him, waves of spiritual energy fluctuated, vaguely forming a vortex. However, breaking through the invisible barrier between a demigod and a heavenly venerate was incredibly difficult. Even after swallowing a piece of lotus root, Bai Xiaochun could only gather 10 times the force of the collision. As time passed, when Bai Xiaochun attempted the 10th collision, he still failed. His entire body trembled, and blood spilled from the corners of his mouth. When his eyes widened, Bai Xiaochun's gaze was filled with unwillingness. Is my foundation insufficient, or rather, is the difficulty of breaking through the immortal longevity technique too great? Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath, closed his eyes again, and recalled the times he had broken through at the nascent soul and heavenly human realms. Gradually, Bai Xiaochun began to understand. His previous breakthroughs, without exception, were all related to the immortal longevity technique. Each breakthrough was like approaching a large door and pushing it open. But today, with the completion of these 2 volumes of the immortal longevity technique, it was like reaching the end of the technique. Without further divine abilities to support it, the path leading to the end appeared before him, no longer a closed door, but a wall. What about the wall? There's no door, so I'll just break through. Bai Xiaochun gritted his teeth fiercely. Blood vessels appeared in his eyes. He took several deep breaths, then a look of determination appeared in his eyes. Trying repeatedly isn't the solution. Each failure will cause a shock to my body. Even with the immortal longevity technique for recovery, I feel that this kind of damage, even if it can be recovered, will cause serious harm if repeated too many times. Bai Xiaochun suddenly spread his divine consciousness, contacting the little black turtle in the netherworld. Then, he immediately told the little black turtle to give him some more lotus roots. It can only be done once, concentrating all the powerful medicine together. After accumulation, it will form a final blow. Bai Xiaochun had made his decision, and he also considered using the turtle pattern cauldron. Previously, whether it was the heavenly dragonfish or the lotus seeds, he hadn't used a turtle pattern cauldron to refine his spiritual power. After all, this wasn't the Tongshan world, but the eternal continent, and it was difficult to avoid being exposed. Unless absolutely necessary, it was better not to use it if possible. After making up his mind, Bai Xiaochun didn't continue his assault, but instead focused on recovering from the injuries he sustained from the previous attack on the barrier. Before long, the little black turtle returned. Seeing the fresh blood at the corner of Bai Xiaochun's mouth, it realized the importance of the lotus root to him. Without haggling, it directly took out another piece of lotus root. Time passed. Half a month went by quickly. During this half month, Bai Xiaochun didn't attempt to break through the barrier, but instead continuously accumulated power. Every day, the little black turtle would bring him lotus roots. Sometimes there were 7 or 8, sometimes as many as 10. Bai Xiaochun didn't need to swallow them. As soon as the lotus roots were thrown to him, they would be directly absorbed and crushed by the vortex surrounding him. Gradually, the spiritual power in his body accumulated to an earth-shattering level. His body seemed like a thunderbolt that could explode at any moment. The little black turtle witnessed this many times and felt numb. Master Turtle must be careful. Don't let him suddenly explode one day and blow up Master Turtle as well. In its terror, the little black turtle hurriedly arranged some seals it knew around Bai Xiaochun. The purpose of these seals was that the little black turtle was worried that Bai Xiaochun would explode and harm it, and invisibly, they concealed Bai Xiaochun's aura. Even with the seals broken, the little black turtle was still terrified. In truth, Bai Xiaochun himself was completely unaware that after absorbing these lotus roots, his body had become even more unstable. Every time the little black turtle came, it would fearfully throw the lotus roots from afar and then immediately leave. Most of the time, it stayed inside the heavenly pond, secretly eating these lotus roots. The taste of the lotus roots was truly sweet, making the little black turtle very fond of them after eating. Each time, it couldn't help but eat a little more. Although it wasn't addicted, it wasn't far from it either. But the lotus flower in this heavenly pond was unique. There was only one such flower in the entire eternal continent. Although it grew inside the heavenly pond, its roots spreading out to form many lotus leaves, seed pods, and tubers, in reality, it was still just one plant. If the little black turtle had eaten only a little, it wouldn't have mattered. Compared to the entire lotus root that Bai Xiaochun consumed, it was insignificant and had little impact. But time and time again, this little black turtle became addicted to eating lotus roots. In the past half-month, it brought Bai Xiaochun over 100 roots, but it secretly ate thousands of them itself. Since then, lacking the spiritual power from the roots to nourish them, gradually, some parts of the lotus leaves in the Holy Emperor City began to wither. Even the edges turned yellow. Most shocking was the lotus flower in the Imperial Palace. Previously, after the Heavenly Dragonfish incident, it had already withered a little. Now, encountering this little black turtle pulling the rug out from under it, gradually, it also wilted. The lotus leaves turned yellow, the lotus flower withered. Such scenes instantly shook the entire Holy Emperor City, causing a tremendous uproar. Yellow lotus leaves. Oh my god, what's the reason this time? Damn it, what's been happening to our Holy Imperial City for the past year? Could it be that Bai Xiaochun again? Look. Not only are the lotus leaves failing, but there are problems with the lotus flowers in the Imperial Palace too. The nobles throughout the court all cried out in astonishment. The 3 heavenly venerables, Chen and Su, were filled with anger and weariness. This past year, a series of events had truly occurred, leaving them feeling utterly helpless. Especially when they realized that all of this was the work of that little black turtle, their helplessness intensified. This is because of that damned eternal turtle. How could it keep staring at our sacred lotus? You can eat anything, but don't always stare at the lotus flowers. Why don't you go eat those heavenly dragonfish instead? It eats the lotus seeds and even the lotus roots. In the eyes of the Holy Emperor, this little black turtle was like a priceless treasure. They couldn't conveniently discipline it. Fortunately, this matter concerned the very foundation of the Holy Emperor City. This was too significant. Even if the Holy Emperor were to go into seclusion again, he couldn't avoid coming out. After emerging, the Holy Emperor saw that half of the lotus leaves in the Holy Emperor City had turned yellow. Looking at the lotus flowers in his imperial palace, even as an ancient powerhouse, he felt a little bewildered. He both loved and hated the little black turtle, the culprit behind all this, but he couldn't bring himself to harm it. Finally, he could only take matters into his own hands, capture the little black turtle, and earnestly advise it. The lotus root, it's inedible, the Holy Emperor sighed, looking at the little black turtle in his hand. Is this really inedible? The little black turtle, startled, widened its eyes and feigned innocence. The holy emperor also harbored anger, but he was reluctant to direct it at the little black turtle. Bai Xiaochun was the perfect target for him to vent his rage. After advising the little black turtle a few more times, a cold glint flashed in the holy emperor's eyes as he was about to summon Bai Xiaochun to the palace. But at that moment, inside Bai Xiaochun's blessed land, he sat cross-legged in meditation, his eyes suddenly opening. After half a month of accumulation, the 100 lotus roots have formed a whirlwind of spiritual energy that can no longer be suppressed. If I don't break through now, when will I? Bai Xiaochun laughed, looking up at the sky. A loud bang echoed within his body. All the cultivation power in his meridians, at this moment, frantically converged towards his soul. The spiritual energy accumulated from over 100 lotus roots erupted in an instant, forming a vast sea of spiritual energy, surging with earth-shattering waves. Within his body, it converged from all directions, forcefully surging into his soul, rushing towards the invisible yet palpable barrier, unleashing the final impact. The rumbling sounds not only echoed within Bai Xiaochun's body but also spread outwards, reverberating throughout heaven and earth. At the same time, for the first time, Bai Xiaochun heard a crackling sound that invigorated him, like a barrier shattering. "Break for me." Bai Xiaochun lowered his head, veins bulging on his forehead. All his cultivation, all his accumulated power in this impact surged forward relentlessly, exploding. There was no door ahead, no path. Therefore, he could only forge his own path, a great Tao straight to the heavenly venerate. His body ached intensely, his soul torn apart. All of this pales in comparison to the suffering Bai Xiaochun had endured. No matter how ferocious his expression or how insane his heart, his direction remained unwavering, never changing. A thunderous roar shook the heavens, erupting with fury. In that instant, his cultivation directly broke through the limits of the demigod realm. In a flash, as his soul seemed to shatter into pieces, and his body felt like it was about to explode, the barrier in front of him suddenly shattered. In the instant the barrier exploded, Bai Xiaochun's mind went blank, devoid of thoughts, without any searching, only a detached calmness. He saw that the surrounding world had fallen into darkness. The only thing remaining was a single bright point of light before him. This light grew brighter and brighter, as if wanting to engulf him completely. After the light completely enveloped him, before Bai Xiaochun's eyes, the world, though still dark, appeared with countless points of light. Looking closely, he was surprised to see countless things emitting a gentle light, fluttering in the air. He seemed to see dandelions again. Seeing these countless fluttering things filling the sky, his body seemed to be constantly moving closer to one of them, as if wanting to merge into one. At this moment, time seemed to stretch endlessly. In fact, inside the Holy Emperor City, as the invisible barrier in front of Bai Xiaochun shattered, a terrifying wave of energy surged from his body in his blessed land, roaring and rising into the sky. Amidst the deafening explosion, a massive vortex, seemingly connecting to the heavens, surged within and outside Bai Xiaochun's blessed land, engulfing all 8 directions and causing dramatic changes in the heavens and earth. Simultaneously, everyone in the Holy Emperor City, who had been focused on the Lotus Root incident, changed their expressions and looked over. This wave of energy, this kind of aura. Someone is attempting to break through to demigod and ascend to heavenly venerate. After a brief silence, exclamations of astonishment erupted. Rainbows flew out from within the Holy Emperor City. Countless divine senses, from all directions, converged towards Bai Xiaochun's blessed land. It's worth noting that, throughout the entire eternal continent, there are currently only 10 heavenly venerates. This alone demonstrates the unimaginable difficulty of a demigod-level expert attempting a breakthrough. At this moment, even the Holy Emperor put aside his thoughts about the little black turtle, his divine senses spreading out and converging on Bai Xiaochun's cave dwelling. In an instant, as Bai Xiaochun's aura spread, attracting the attention of thousands, the news spread widely, and almost all the cultivators within the Holy Emperor City became aware of it, especially the vortex in the sky, which was now rumbling and moving, causing changes in the heavens and earth, as if it were also continuously spreading the aura of Bai Xiaochun's breakthrough to even further afield. The entire Holy Emperor City was shaken, and Gu Jianjun was the fastest. In an instant, his figure reappeared at the vortex outside Bai Xiaochun's blessed land. Looking at the vortex before him, feeling the waves of surging power within it, his expression couldn't help but change. Bai Xiaochun is breaking through. Chen Su and the middle-aged scholar both stepped out from the void. Their eyes gleamed, and their hearts were filled with shock. In fact, it had been too long since a new heavenly venerate had appeared in the Holy Emperor dynasty. If this breakthrough hadn't been Bai Xiaochun, but a cultivator from the Holy Emperor dynasty, it would have been a momentous event. A cause for celebration throughout the entire Holy Emperor dynasty. A news story that would have thrilled the people of the Holy Emperor dynasty and even terrified the evil Emperor dynasty. The emergence of another heavenly venerate would have significantly increased the Holy Emperor dynasty's strength. But instead, the breakthrough was achieved by Bai Xiaochun. This caused a vortex of turmoil within the Holy Emperor city, and a complex mix of emotions arose in everyone's hearts. Especially the three of them, including Gu Tianjun, whose expressions quickly turned grim. What a pity! When ascending to heavenly venerate, the Eternal Mother will guide the process. Unless the Primordial One intervenes, no one can interfere or interrupt. Currently, among the three heavenly venerables remaining inside the Holy Emperor city, the middle-aged scholar shook his head and spoke. This Bai Xiaochun is incredibly cunning. Choosing to break through inside the Holy Emperor city, he clearly saw that. The Holy Emperor has reservations here, and the evil Emperor can't reach it. Conversely, it's the safest place, Chen Su said slowly, a strange light flashing in his eyes. So what? Last year, many cultivators reached this stage. But for a demigod to ascend to heavenly venerable, under 3 heavenly tribulations, countless souls perished. Even if Bai Xiaochun manages to sever the first heavenly tribulation and break through the barrier, the 2 subsequent tribulations are still a matter of life and death for him. Gu Tianjun snorted coldly, a cold glint flickering in his eyes. At a time when the entire Holy Emperor city was shaken, the Holy Emperor was concerned, and the 3 heavenly venerables were paying close attention. In an instant, this swirling vortex, seemingly reaching the heavens, suddenly erupted with an even larger explosion. In a flash, its range expanded 100-fold. Amidst the rumbling, nearly half the sky transformed into a vortex. Countless lightning bolts raced within, and countless thunderbolts continuously exploded. Bai Xiaochun's breakthrough aura, spreading along the vortex, directly transcended the boundaries of the Holy Emperor city, continuously radiating throughout the immortal realm. The second heavenly tribulation is coming. Gu Tianjun narrowed his eyes, his gaze incredibly sharp. At the same time, below this vortex, at the center of all these fluctuating aura waves, Bai Xiaochun sat cross-legged. His body trembled. In his world, within the endless darkness, amidst countless things resembling floating dandelion seeds, his consciousness was rapidly and continuously merging with one of those floating things. This merging was the second tribulation Gu Tianjun spoke of. A demigod ascending to heavenly venerate must undergo 3 great tribulations. The first great tribulation is this invisible barrier. This barrier is like a celestial abyss, preventing half-god powerhouses lacking sufficient resources from escaping. Furthermore, each failed attempt to break through the barrier will affect one's foundation. Once a certain number of attempts are exceeded, there will be no hope left. After all, not everyone possesses the same regenerative abilities as Bai Xiaochun. Even Bai Xiaochun, after exceeding a certain number of attempts, will suffer damage. However, there are still many half-god cultivators who, for the sake of their lineage and inner strength, accumulate enough resources to successfully break through during this great tribulation. At this point, they face the second tribulation. This tribulation is particularly mysterious. Some call it returning to the original state. Others call it reversing the flow of the origin. In short, the focus of this second tribulation is fusion. Among the countless dandelion-like seeds fluttering around here, they merge together. This kind of merging seems easy. But in reality, although it's called the second tribulation, after overcoming the first tribulation, this is almost the barrier preventing 90% of cultivators from entering. Previously, cultivators in the eternal immortal realm didn't understand this second tribulation, nor did they know its cause. It wasn't until the Holy Emperor ascended to the primordial realm and possessed the ability to revive that the truth of this second tribulation of the heavenly venerate was revealed. This tribulation tests one's divine abilities and cultivation techniques. Cultivating these techniques throughout one's life, pushing oneself to the great perfection of the demigod realm, is the key to this barrier. Depending on the different techniques, the degree of this merging also varies. That being said, merging to more than 5 parts can be considered overcoming this tribulation. It may seem like only 5 parts, but the difficulty is immense. Compared to the first tribulation, it's far more difficult. Because in the first tribulation, one could still think of ways to accumulate power and then break through. This second tribulation, everything is fixed, unless one self-destructs their cultivation and starts cultivating again. But the cultivation method must still be a top-tier Taoist technique within the eternal immortal realm. If the first 2 tribulations prevented 9/10 of cultivators from outside, then the third tribulation is life and death. Either success, becoming a heavenly venerate from now on, or failure, vanishing into thin air, becoming a part of the eternal flower in the legends of the eternal immortal realm. This third tribulation is about approval. Obtaining the eternal flower is also about gaining the approval of the eternal mother in the netherworld. This has nothing to do with accumulation, nor is it greatly related to the cultivation method. Even in the primordial era, no one could understand the underlying rules. Because regardless of whether it was the Holy Emperor dynasty or the Evil Emperor dynasty, both had members of the royal bloodline who cultivated the techniques of the 2 great imperial dynasties. But at this stage, situations that were not approved of appeared. These 3 great tribulations were also the reason why Gu Tianjun and the others coldly stared at the vortex. Even the Holy Emperor, at this moment, looked at the vortex with the same mindset. Bai Xiaochun's ability to overcome the first tribulation was good for both the Holy Emperor and Gu Tianjun and the other 2. They weren't surprised. After all, since Bai Xiaochun arrived at the Holy Emperor dynasty, he had devoured a considerable amount of both the heavenly dragonfish and the lotus seeds. Even the lotus root incident now, they all knew in their hearts, was definitely related to Bai Xiaochun. Such accumulation, of course, made Bai Xiaochun's first life incredibly smooth. This point greatly troubled the Holy Emperor. If he had known this earlier, he would never have allowed Bai Xiaochun to stay in the Holy Emperor city. I cannot interfere. It depends on Bai Xiaochun's own fate. A cruel glint flashed in the Holy Emperor's eyes. He inwardly scoffed. If Bai Xiaochun had leveled up elsewhere, he might have been able to intervene. But today, Bai Xiaochun was inside the Holy Emperor city under the watchful eyes of tens of thousands, and he truly had no way to interfere. While the gazes of everyone in the Holy Emperor city were focused on Bai Xiaochun's blessed land, this earth-shattering vortex condensed. The vortex spun almost non-stop, continuously exploding and expanding. The 3 of them, including Gu Tianjun, couldn't help but retreat. But just as they retreated, in an instant, a low roar from Bai Xiaochun suddenly erupted from within the vortex. This roar, like a dragon's cry, directly struck the heavens, stirring up wind and clouds, shaking the entire Holy Emperor city. This caused every single heavenly dragonfish in the celestial pool to tremble. They all dived to the bottom, not daring to move even a little. At the same time, in the instant that Gu Tianjun and the Holy Emperor were all terrified, the vortex in the sky exploded, suddenly bursting out at an unimaginable speed, continuously expanding. As if the sky had been lifted up, covering more than 10 immortal realms of the Holy Emperor city. At this moment, all cultivators and all living beings of the Tongshan world within the entire immortal realm, no matter what they were doing, involuntarily felt their minds shaken. It seemed as if an oppressive force emanated from within their souls, causing them to tremble. Following the swirling vortex, this pressure descended from the heavens. This vortex was even expanding. After engulfing the entire immortal realm, it eventually spread to other immortal realms. Such a scene caused the 3 ancient heavenly monarchs inside the Holy Emperor city to change their expressions drastically, crying out in astonishment. Impossible! This second tribulation was unexpectedly overcome so quickly. Even if he cultivated the Emperor's technique, it would be absolutely impossible to integrate it in an instant. The 3 ancient heavenly monarchs held their breath, their minds shaken, their entire bodies trembling for the first time. Even the Holy Emperor, who was in the Imperial Palace, suddenly shifted his body, appearing in midair above the palace, his expression extremely serious. A glint of light shone in his eyes as he looked towards Bai Xiaochun's blessed land. Back then, when I was ascending to the heavenly venerate realm, this second tribulation took me the time it takes to burn an incense stick. The third tribulation lasted 3 days, but Bai Xiaochun could do it in less than 10 breaths. The immortal longevity technique. So if he could also pass his third tribulation, how long would it take? Gu Jianjun and the Holy Emperor were all shocked. Not to mention the powerful cultivators in Holy Emperor City. Their hearts were already filled with fear, their faces turning pale. Suddenly, a whispering sound appeared in their ears. This whispering sound was like the voice of all living beings, yet also like the call of the Eternal Mother, indistinguishable from its source, like the passage of time, like the heavens and earth. This was a sign that, after overcoming the second tribulation, the Eternal Mother's murmuring would appear, a sign that the Tao seed was about to be condensed. It wasn't just the monks within the Holy Emperor City who heard it. At this moment, wherever the vortex enveloped the sky, countless beings throughout the entire Holy Emperor dynasty heard this murmuring sound. Even those from the Tongchen world were affected. The entire Holy Emperor dynasty was instantly shaken and astonished. Although most people didn't know what was happening, many had experienced similar events or heard about them before and immediately guessed the answer. Someone is ascending to the heavenly venerate realm. This truth spread from the various provinces within the Holy Emperor dynasty, forming a vast storm like a vortex in the sky, sweeping across the land. Even the evil Emperor dynasty immediately investigated this matter. The evil Emperor was also shaken, intently looking towards the direction of the Holy Emperor City. Gongsun Wanner had been brought back. Currently, she was not in the evil Emperor City, but was following the main army, moving forward. She sat on a bone boat, her expression initially calm. But very quickly, she suddenly widened her eyes, looking towards the direction of the Holy Emperor City. It's my little brother in the cultivation world. Once he successfully ascends to the heavenly venerate realm, his name immediately shakes the entire world. Such commotion, however, completely unaware of Bai Xiaochun's immersion in the fusion process. His mind was blank, seemingly only calm and instinctive. Although the Holy Emperor and the three ancient heavenly monarchs were watching, the momentary shock of the fusion didn't bother Bai Xiaochun at all. He simply felt as if he had become a part of a dandelion, now floating gently in the void, without direction. But vaguely, he sensed a voice echoing within his soul. He didn't know what the voice was saying, but instinctively felt very safe, very dependent, like a mother. He forgot everything, seemingly truly becoming a dandelion, slowly and gently floating in the dark void. He didn't know how long it had been, seemingly a year, or perhaps 100 years, 10,000 years. In this void, there seemed to be no concept of time. Until one day, he seemed to finally hear the voice clearly. "My child, tell me, what is your name? I am Bai Xiaochun." The moment Bai Xiaochun's voice emerged from his mouth, each word seemed to transform into a thunderous roar. The void shattered. His world was torn into pieces. Amidst the destruction, Bai Xiaochun awoke. He had awakened within the dandelion and also within the blessed land of the Holy Emperor dynasty. In the blink of an eye, as his eyes opened, all his memories flashed before him. Within his body, a seed had appeared, like a dandelion seed. It was the Tao seed. At this moment, the trajectory of the world changed. The minds of all beings in the evil Emperor dynasty and the Holy Emperor dynasty, regardless of their cultivation level, regardless of who they were, whispers echoed in their heads and in their ears. They seemed to be saying the same thing. A new heavenly venerate had emerged in the world, ranking 11th, his name, Bai Xiaochun. And in this same instant, outside the eternal immortal realm, beside the colossal body of the Lord, in a dark expanse of starry sky, a gigantic monster resembling a continent appeared. Looking closely, it was half a fan. Although incomplete, it was within the starry sky, swiftly gliding like a shooting star. Its original direction was not the eternal immortal realm. But as Bai Xiaochun's cultivation broke through, and as the sounds echoed in the ears of the beings in the eternal immortal realm, an invisible vortex seemed to form there, causing this incomplete giant monster to slightly change direction, its speed increasing significantly. However, judging from its trajectory, even with the change in direction, it would eventually briefly pass through the eternal immortal realm. The fan arrived unnoticed by anyone. Even the ancient emperors, due to the vast distance, could not sense the fan rapidly approaching in the starry sky. At this moment, in the blink of an eye, as Bai Xiaochun became a heavenly venerate, all beings, regardless of whether they belonged to the evil Emperor dynasty or the Holy Emperor dynasty, heard Bai Xiaochun's name clearly echoing in their ears. The heavens and earth seemed to have a spirit. If a heavenly venerate appeared, it would surely spread throughout the world. Just as Gongsun Wander had said, the beings of this world are like climbing a massive ladder. Each person has their own destiny, from end to end, condensing their Tao seed and simultaneously influencing the world. Within the Holy Emperor dynasty, the three figures of Chen Su were solemn, their eyes gleaming with determination as they gazed into Bai Xiaochun's blessed land. At this moment, an unstoppable aura was constantly erupting, sweeping across the entire world. Even the Holy Emperor was silent at this moment. His heart was filled with complex emotions. He understood that from this moment on, Bai Xiaochun, from this Tongshan world, seemed to have found himself. If previously Bai Xiaochun only possessed two values, then from this very moment, in the eyes of the Holy Emperor, Bai Xiaochun's value increased by another level. After all, he was a heavenly venerate. The sharpness that had surged earlier because of the lotus root incident was now suppressed by the Holy Emperor. In this instant, the powerful figures in the Holy Emperor dynasty, even the Marquis Liu Tianhu, were extremely unsettled. In fact, Bai Xiaochun's smooth ascension to heavenly venerate this time exceeded their expectations. Not only was the Holy Emperor dynasty shocked and astonished, but the evil Emperor dynasty was the same. Compared to the complex emotions of the people in the eternal immortal realm, most of the cultivators in the Tongshan world within these two great dynasties were extremely excited and thrilled upon hearing this world-shattering news. Inside the Divine Luo continent, in the Grand Venerable's mansion, the giant Ghost King, whose face had been gloomy and troubled by the barren state of his subordinates, suddenly stood up. His breath caught in his throat, and a fierce light shone in his eyes. Bai Xiaochun, he's become a heavenly venerable. In his excitement, the giant Ghost King looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. The laughter echoed from another continent, where the great heavenly master of the savage wilderness was speeding forward. He suddenly stopped, looking towards the direction of the Holy Emperor city. After a long time, his expression was complex, a mixture of joy, a smile, and determination. "I should also go visit the giant Ghost King," the great heavenly master murmured softly. He turned and changed direction, heading straight towards the Divine Luo continent. It wasn't just the great Demon King and the Grand Celestial Master who were excited. At this moment, within the evil Emperor dynasty, Tai Dan was protecting Song Junwen, swiftly moving forward, avoiding groups of people with their own agendas. Under Tai Dan's protection, Song Junwen was very safe. And as time passed, Tai Dan's combat power had become much stronger than before. He had naturally reached the heavenly human realm. It was at this moment that a whisper from the heavens and earth echoed in Tai Dan and Song Junwen's ears. Song Junwen's body trembled. Tai Dan also gasped with excitement. It suddenly raised its head, looking towards the direction of the Holy Emperor city in the distance. Tai Dan, Zikun has become a heavenly venerate. Song Junwen was so happy that tears streamed down her face. After she went to the eternal immortal realm and was scattered with the others, this was the third piece of news that excited her. The first piece of news was that Bai Xiaochun had been bestowed the title of Tongshan Gong by the Holy Emperor. The second piece of news was that not long ago, she had received a message from the Lingxi ancestor, informing her that the Lingxi ancestor and Li Qinghu's group were working hard and had managed to find quite a few members of the Ne sect. At this moment, she wanted to rush with Tai Dan towards the Ne sect's gathering point. She had considered going to the Holy Emperor city, but the distance was too great. Currently, the closest place was where Ancestor Lingxi resided. Meanwhile, Ancestor Lingxi and Li Qinghu were inside the evil Emperor dynasty, their hearts filled with excitement. They had faced hardships, endured bitterness, and strived. Now, all seemed to hold even greater hope and motivation. Zikun becoming a heavenly venerate will greatly uplift the spirits of the Tongshan world. Ancestor Lingxi laughed heartily, his laughter filled with joy and anticipation. Amidst the laughter of Ancestor Lingxi, Li Qinghu beside him also smiled. Memories flickered in her eyes. It was as if she saw Mauer Mountain again, saw that somewhat rustic young man. Meanwhile, within the evil Emperor dynasty, over the past year, Songquest's growth had been incredibly rapid. Under the intense killing and power struggles, he had faced numerous life-threatening situations, but with the killing intent in his bones, he had persevered. He hadn't sought out Ancestor Lingxi, but instead, like a lone wolf, he had used all his strength within the vast territory of the evil Emperor dynasty to continuously strengthen himself. At this moment, he was only half a step away from breaking through to the nascent soul stage and entering the heavenly human realm. The news of Bai Xiaoqun becoming a heavenly venerate also reached his ears. Songquest's footsteps suddenly halted. After a moment of silence, a smile appeared on his face, but his eyes still held unwavering determination. He turned around in a flash and disappeared into the darkness. Within the eternal world, there were many lone wolves like Song Qiu. Chu Zimai was one of them. However, because her cultivation level was that of a celestial being, she was extremely cautious and concealed her whereabouts very well. Most importantly, her methods of killing were different from Songquest's. Chu Zimai chose indirect control, not controlling a single force, but rather, in the past year, controlling 5 sects. Her whereabouts were even more elusive, making her difficult for outsiders to detect. Utilizing the sects under her control, Chu Zimai surpassed other lone wolves in both cultivation and intelligence gathering. When the whispers of Bai Xiaoqun becoming a celestial venerate reached her ears, Chu Zimai, hiding in the 6th sect she intended to control, trembled slightly. "Little fellow, your damned father seems quite powerful." At this very moment, within the evil emperor city of the evil emperor dynasty, in a heavily guarded cave dwelling, a middle-aged man sat cross-legged. As this whisper reached his ears, the middle-aged man's eyes suddenly opened, revealing a complex expression. "Bai Xiaoqun, you're one step ahead of me, but so what?" After a long pause, the middle-aged man took a deep breath and closed his eyes. In an instant, a powerful aura breaking through the barriers within the evil emperor city erupted. At this moment, the entire immortal realm of the eternal dynasty was slightly shaken. Simultaneously, within the holy emperor city in the blessed land, Bai Xiaoqun felt the Tao seed in his body like a dandelion seed, his heart filled with excitement. Finally, a breakthrough. A moment later, he raised his right hand and waved it. Suddenly, his entire body flickered with light. The Tao seed finally pierced through his body, floating before him. Looking at the Tao seed before him, a strange light shone in Bai Xiaoqun's eyes. "Is this a Tao seed?" Bai Xiaoqun murmured. Countless runes flickered on the Tao seed before him, incredibly dazzling. At the same time, it seemed to contain an immense amount of thought. Especially the Hanmin cultivation technique he had cultivated before, a trace of mental power that had saved him many times now appeared, also condensing within this Tao seed. After a long time, Bai Xiaoqun's gaze returned. The Tao seed flashed with light again, once more merging into Bai Xiaoqun's body. Bai Xiaoqun took a deep breath, and a powerful cultivation force far exceeding that of a demigod erupted from his body. A thunderous roar like a storm erupted. His hair fluttered without wind. A powerful feeling surged within him. The transformation from demigod to heavenly venerate is like a complete metamorphosis, a total difference. If he were to fight the demon mother now, he would have a sure victory and wouldn't need to weaken her piece by piece. With his current cultivation, a single sword strike would surely tear through the defenses of the Whitebone warship. Especially the control over his mental power gave Bai Xiaoqun a vague illusion. It was as if, at this moment, he was standing on a cloud, able to survey the heavens and earth. With just a thought, he could reach the thoughts in the minds of all living beings. He thought of Gongsun Water on the Eternal Sea, performing her mental power techniques. In that moment, he felt as if countless living beings were reaching out to grab him. He couldn't resist, couldn't retaliate. Without a trace of mental power in his body to neutralize it, even with Bai Xiaoqun's heaven-defying recovery ability, he would still find it difficult to break through. But at this moment, Bai Xiaoqun clearly felt that he could also achieve this. Although it was a little reluctant, he had the full qualification to control the thoughts of all living beings. Before, I didn't understand why, after the immortal longevity technique reached the heavenly venerate realm, there was no path ahead. Bai Xiaoqun closed his eyes, and after a long time, he opened them. At this moment, a light flashed in his eyes. But now, I think I understand. The human body has 5 great mountains, 5 layers of shackles and chains. Although the immortal longevity technique ultimately seems to stop at the great ascension realm, in reality, after reaching this step, it's as if the foundation has been tempered too deeply and thickly. What lies before is no longer a path someone else has walked, but one's own path. Even a powerful figure like the Supreme Lord was defeated by this Lord from outside back then. This clearly shows that continuing to follow the methods of our predecessors will ultimately lead to an end. The foundation is good. the path ahead, based on experience and the different thought processes of each individual, will also lead to different choices. Thinking about it, it's not just the imperial family of the Tongshan world like this. The evil emperor, the holy emperor, are also like this. Bai Xiaochun whispered. He had obviously understood. The immortal longevity scroll is like soil. What will grow in this soil depends on each person's Tao. Above the demigod is the heavenly venerate. Above the heavenly venerate is the primordial. To become a primordial, according to the information Gongsun Water and I have gathered, it's about a Tao seed taking root, sprouting, and blossoming into a Tao concept. Once there is a Tao concept, that's the primordial. The Tao seed, the Tao concept. This is the difference between a heavenly venerate and an ancient expert. Bai Xiaochun pondered for a while. His thoughts became clearer. Before, when his cultivation hadn't broken through, he was naive and didn't understand. Now, having sensed the Tao seed in his body, he indirectly formed his own judgment regarding the Tao concept of ancient experts. If a heavenly venerate relies on the Tao seed to borrow the thoughts of all living beings, and he himself is one of them, then an ancient expert, relying on their own Tao concept, seems to transcend heaven and earth, surpassing even the highest existence. A heavenly venerate cannot be completely shaken. The Tao concept of an ancient expert, however, encompasses the entire world. A single thought choosing destiny, that's why they have the right to revive a heavenly venerate. Bai Xiaochun took a deep breath. He didn't know if all his own thoughts were correct, but he believed that at least half of them aligned with his judgment. In other words, I have to figure it out myself. The third volume of the Immortal Longevity Technique. A dazzling light shone in Bai Xiaochun's eyes. And the purpose of this third volume is to allow my Tao seed to gradually take root and sprout, then blossom into a Tao thought flower. As Bai Xiaochun spoke softly, all his aura and cultivation fluctuations instantly retracted, no longer emanating outwards, but instead filling his body. His thoughts also slowly sank in that instant, neither happy nor sad, a state of profound tranquility. Immortality is a state, seemingly a restoration, but indirectly related to time. Only something that lasts for hundreds of millions of years can be called immortal. Although immortality is a form of consciousness, it is also related to time, existing for a long time. So the third volume, what must it be? In this quietness, Bai Xiaochun began to ponder and investigate. After slowly closing his eyes, he immersed himself in meditation, recalling the years gone by, the memories of cultivating the immortal scroll, the memories of obtaining the longevity scroll, the memories of everything in the Tongshan world. After his birth, all memories were surfacing in his mind. While Bai Xiaochun was contemplating the cultivation method, as his cultivation became more restrained, the swirling storm outside his blessed land slowly disappeared. The whispering sounds that had echoed in everyone's ears also gradually faded away at this moment. After a long while, when the great world returned to normal, the three of them, including Gu Tianchun, stood in midair, looking at the quiet blessed land, in silence. Others didn't know what Bai Xiaochun was doing at this moment. But how could they not know? He's devising his own cultivation technique. Chen Su slowly opened his mouth. This step, all three of them had gone through it years ago, and they understood its importance. It determined Bai Xiaochun's combat power at the heavenly venerate realm, and whether he had any chance of later breaking through to become the third ancient emperor in the entire eternal immortal realm. At this moment, everyone in the Holy Emperor City gasped, especially those powerful cultivators. Their expressions changed. Although they didn't know what Bai Xiaochun was doing, their gazes towards Bai Xiaochun's blessed land were filled with intense apprehension. Even though the blessed land was no longer experiencing the immense turbulence it had just moments ago, in everyone's perception, this tranquil blessed land resembled a ferocious beast slowly closing its eyes, ready to devour everything when it finally opened them. Before, Bai Xiaochun's cultivation was only at the demigod level. They could ignore him, their words laced with sarcasm and contempt. But now, Bai Xiaochun had ascended to the heavenly venerate level, becoming the 11th heavenly venerate in the eternal immortal realm. A revered figure they could no longer speak ill of behind his back as they usually did. Here, even in a kingdom with established rules, it was still the cultivation world, and ultimately, the strong reigned supreme. If Bai Xiaochun weren't from the Tongshan world, they would be overjoyed, perhaps even a little arrogant, and would hold him in the utmost respect. It's just that their identities and backgrounds are different. All of this makes people's perception of Bai Xiaochun extremely complicated. But most of it was the shuddering thought of the past. Before, whether it was the heavenly dragonfish incident or the lotus seed, their words towards Bai Xiaochun and their petitions to the Holy Emperor were anything but polite. The former was merciless, and the latter involved repeated lectures and punishments. If Bai Xiaochun had remained a demigod, it would have been fine. But now that he had ascended to the heavenly venerate realm, those powerful figures couldn't help but inwardly lament. They didn't want Bai Xiaochun to remain in the Holy Emperor City any longer. In fact, the previous events had given them a strong premonition. When he was just a demigod, he almost caused the foundation of the Holy Emperor City to crumble if this continues. The Holy Emperor City will be in grave danger. He must be made to leave this place. I think I've seen through this person. Commander Liu was right. He is a disaster. He's only been in the Holy Imperial City for a little over a year. And the result? The number of heavenly dragonfish is halved. The lotus seeds are 7/10 gone. Even the lotus roots are significantly depleted. The Holy Imperial City is a large and prosperous place. Further losses will be disastrous for us. I can confirm that if this continues, with this person's destructive power and his cultivation level as a heavenly venerate, he will definitely target us. At that point, we won't be able to defeat him. This person is also skilled at sophistry. We will be in danger. After everyone almost reached a consensus on this matter, the powerful figures within the Holy Imperial City immediately petitioned the Holy Emperor. Your Majesty, the promotion of Tongshan Gong to Heavenly Venerate is a major event for our Holy Imperial Dynasty. I respectfully request that, given Tongshan Gong's status and merits, his continued stay in the Holy Imperial City is no longer appropriate. He should surely go to the Second Immortal Realm and become a Heavenly Venerate guarding the Second Immortal Realm. Your Majesty, the Second Immortal Realm has been embroiled in constant conflict and warfare with the evil Emperor Dynasty. Zhao Yuanhen, the Heavenly Venerate, has been stationed there for many years. For our Holy Emperor Dynasty, his contributions and sacrifices have been immense. It is fitting that I, the old man, should return to enjoy my old age. That's right. Your Majesty, I also petition to have Tongshan Gong leave. We cannot allow Tongshan Gong to suffer disappointment and heartbreak. He has already made a name for himself by capturing a heavenly venerate. With such a grand scheme, how can he not be allowed to fulfill his duties? Petitions from powerful figures throughout the court converged before the Holy Emperor. Many cultivators also came in person, earnestly speaking their minds. Everyone's sentiment was unanimous. Bai Xiaochun absolutely cannot remain in Holy Emperor City any longer. Even the Holy Emperor was extremely troubled at this moment. He had long realized that his previous actions in leaving Bai Xiaochun here were somewhat underestimating him. He hadn't expected Bai Xiaochun to be so resourceful, repeatedly failing to reveal any weaknesses. Each maneuver only increased his own value, especially considering his heavenly dragonfish, the prospect of many years without lotus seeds, the withered yellow lotus leaves, and the drooping lotus flowers. The Holy Emperor had a strong premonition that if he deliberately kept Bai Xiaochun here any longer, the Holy Emperor City would surely be doomed. Looking at those powerful cultivators, the Holy Emperor understood their fear. They worried that after Bai Xiaochun emerged from seclusion, he would unleash his destructive power and affect them. Anyway, up until now, it seems I'm the only one who suffered misfortune because of Bai Xiaochun. That damned Bai Xiaochun. Thinking of this, the Holy Emperor became even more enraged. Especially when he considered the future, he sighed deeply. He understood that by then, he would be caught in a dilemma. He couldn't fight, nor could he avoid it. The evil Emperor Dynasty would certainly seize this opportunity to try their best to win him over. All of this only added to the Holy Emperor's headache. That damned Bai Xiaochun, how could he be so fickle? If I had known this, I wouldn't have let him throw away the title. The Holy Emperor sighed again. He was about to make a decision. But then he thought about throwing Bai Xiaochun to the Second Immortal Realm, which would also be dangerous. If it were before, the Holy Emperor would absolutely not have thought this way. But after experiencing Bai Xiaochun's destructive abilities for the past year, the Holy Emperor was also afraid. But time and again, Bai Xiaochun, already a heavenly venerate, was incapable of being appointed as a Grand Master for a single province. No matter what, it had to be a grand master of the immortal realm. While the Holy Emperor was brooding and the entire court was submitting petitions, within the Holy Emperor city, in Bai Xiaochun's blessed land, he sat cross-legged, recalling his entire life's past. His eyes quietly opened, a glimmer of understanding mixed with a hint of bewilderment, and he murmured softly, "My memories, everything in the Tongshan world. All my memories from the moment I was born are the past the Tao seed takes root, eventually blossoming into Tao thought merging together. That is past thought. The immortal scroll, within the longevity scroll, although not explicitly showing a connection with time, they all have a hidden meaning. If so, my third scroll by Xiaochun whispered, take my past memories and transform them into past thoughts. Take my words now and transform them into present thoughts. Take my future destiny and transform it into future thoughts." As these 3 sentences were spoken, the stagnant energy in Bai Xiaochun's chest fluctuated continuously. His eyes showed a great deal of understanding. The confusion quickly dissipated, replaced by increased clarity, especially his voice, which seemed to contain some strange power of rules, appearing both near and far within this blessed land. It seemed to be in his ear, yet also seemed to be outside the sky. What he was speaking now, if it were a past thought, seemed more like it was transmitted from the future. It affected the surrounding void, causing cracks and vortices to appear, each one a compressed storm, visible throughout this blessed land. Yet, time and again, no vibration spread outside the blessed land. At this moment, if there were outsiders inside this blessed land, hearing Bai Xiaochun's words, they would undoubtedly feel that time within this entire blessed land seemed to be vaguely distorted, different from the outside. It seemed that the past, present, and future, these 3 things had somehow merged within this blessed land, and there was a certain degree of collision. It was indescribable, utterly mysterious. At the same time, it was terrifying. In fact, the cultivation method Bai Xiaochun had created at this moment surpassed everyone's imagination. Even in its initial form, it was enough to cause a profound shock to those who knew about it. It's worth noting that even a heavenly venerate, although capable of brief recollection, could only possess a Tao technique. At a certain level, it was even a technique borrowed from an ancient imperial dynasty. But Bai Xiaochun had actually begun to explore the Tao of time.